The shock of discovering my wife's betrayal hit hard. The truth was brutal. Shattering our 15-year marriage, I confronted her and she lied, thinking I'd forgive. Detectives revealed the ugly truth and I faced it head-on. The confrontation was raw and my revenge was precise. I left her life in ruins, planning every move with care. Her regret is my satisfaction. Now she lives with the consequences while I've found peace. This is my story. Enjoy watching it. I knew trouble was coming the moment they walked into the bar. Not the kind where someone gets into a fight, but the kind where I'd have to hear stuff I didn't want to hear. Up until a few months ago, I thought of them as friends. When things went bad, if they had just stayed quiet, there wouldn't be a problem. The ones I found out knew about her affair, I dropped immediately, making it clear we weren't friends anymore. They tried to argue, saying they didn't want to choose sides. Hope she'd realize it was wrong. She still loves you, blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't having any of it. It took a few meetings and some heated discussions for them to understand I meant it. Now, if one of them tries to talk to me, I either walk away or leave. I think they finally got it. The few friends I still talked to understood and never mentioned her. If they did by accident, I just excused myself and left. It had been 6 months. The paperwork was done, statements given. My offer to split everything 50-50 their was more than fair, and it was almost over. She was fighting it fiercely. We tried mediation, but they gave up when neither of us would compromise. Mostly, they talked to her, trying to get her to see she was getting a really good deal. Then she wanted counseling. I refused, telling the judge it would be a waste of time and money because I would never reconcile. The judge listened to an emotional, almost hysterical Becky and even threatened me with jail. I said, "Okay, just tell me when to go." "Are you that sure the marriage can't be saved?" the judge asked. "Yes, 100% sure. I will not ever live with her or have a relationship with her again. We have no kids. Very few shared friends now. My business partner and his wife helped her hide the affair, so I'm done with them. Divorcing her is just a small thing in the bigger picture of life. Clear enough?" I might have overstated it, but she tested me. I spent 3 weekends in jail before she dropped the idea of counseling. The women had a mission. You could see it in their eyes. The men looked uncomfortable. I knew they didn't come here by chance. The bar was 25 miles away in another town. I told my new favorite bartender I didn't like the people at my old bar anymore. She was sharp in her mid-40s and had seen it all. She got my story out bit by bit, usually after I'd had a few beers. She'd been married to the same man for 21 years. They owned the bar. The best thing about her was that she never gave an opinion, even though I could tell she wanted to. One night, I told her she could speak her mind just once and never bring it up again, so she'd stop wondering. When I finished, she looked at me. "I've only heard your side. It might be fantasy and nonsense, but I don't think so. You were probably right to leave, but you might want to hear her side. I'm sure you've wondered why it all fell apart. It might help, or it might make you angrier. Still, hearing her out might do you some good. Up to you." End of discussion. The next beer is on me. I loved this woman. Like a mother, she'd let you drink as much as you wanted for a price. If you gave her your keys first, she knew something was up when they walked in and saw my face turn cold. "Friends?" she asked, nodding towards them. "I don't know," I said. "Guess I'm about to find out." "Don't do anything stupid," she warned. "Just give me a look and I'll run them out of here." 10 minutes passed before they said anything. Todd came over and stood beside me. "Hey, Jace, how you doing?" "I'm fine. The family's fine. Everyone's fine." "Get to the point, Todd. What do you want?" My flat, emotionless tone shook him a bit. "Me and the guys," he nodded at his two friends. "We don't really want to be here, but Becky's been crying over how you're being mean about something she's sorry for and you won't forgive her. You remember being married, technically you still are, and they won't drop it. So we found out where you were, and here we are. Will you talk to them? What if I say no? Tell them to leave me alone. It would probably hurt their feelings, and they'd come after you anyway. Please, Jace." I made him wait a minute. "Fine, but remember what I told Jeff and Angela? Bob and Gloria? It still stands. We do this. We're done. Don't look me up again. Got it?" He seemed angry, but I didn't care. "I understand. Man, you've become so tough. Will you talk to them now?" "Yes, but let me ask you something first. If your wife was cheating, would you forgive her?" He smirked. "That'll never happen. She loves me." "Yeah." Becky said the same thing didn't stop, or did it? He frowned as I continued. First, tell Sandy and George what I said and have them come over and say they understand. They might not be as controlled as you are, then tell the girls I'll give them 10 minutes no more. They better be sure about what they say because they won't get another chance. I guess I have time for one more beer, I replied. I turned my back on him. He stood there for a moment, looking down, then returned to the table. I watched in the mirror as their heads snapped up and they started arguing. Sandy threw up his hands and came over to me. I've always liked you, Jace. You don't deserve this mess. I feel bad about it, and I'm done. Sorry for the trouble, but Tina is set on this. We're going to have a big talk on the way home. This is the last time I'm dealing with her meddling. I guess this is goodbye. He reached out his hand. I shook it. Goodbye, Sandy. You're one of the good ones. If I come back to town, I might look you up. Not Tina, though. George never really liked me, so he didn't care. The women watched me closely. I made them wait a bit, then took a deep breath and walked over to their table. I sat down and they began to talk. I held up my hand, took out my phone, and set a timer for 10 minutes. I could see it annoyed them. All right, you have 10 minutes. Start now. Tina rolled her eyes. Really, Jace? A timer? 9 minutes and 49 seconds, I replied. They talked over each other for a minute, then realized their mistake and looked at Carrie. She seemed to be the spokesperson. I know this really isn't our business, but I slammed my hand on the table, making them jump. Exactly. It's none of your business, and you should stay out of it. But you can't help yourselves, can you? You think you need to make me see sense because you're our friends, right? Then where were you when she was cheating on me? Why didn't you care then? Any one of you could have told me and saved me a lot of pain, but you didn't. Some of you even covered for her. I'm done with this. Let me reset the timer. They were stunned into silence before Carrie spoke again, sounding annoyed. Jace, please, it was a mistake. She didn't mean for it to happen. We didn't know what to say. She's miserable. Her parents barely speak to her. Her boss is unhappy with her. She cried when she found out you saved her job. I think she's learned her lesson. Maybe it's time to let go of your pride and take her back. I rolled my eyes. Sorry, I didn't read the handbook on how long I'm allowed to be angry. So now it's all fine. Just forgive and forget. I'm calmer when you all aren't pushing her at me. Do you really think you know what's best for us? They looked a bit guilty, then nodded. Is that how you all feel? I asked. They all nodded again. They started talking over each other for a few more seconds until I stopped them. Let's pause the timer. Carrie, if you found out George was cheating and we all knew and didn't tell you, would it be okay? Would you eventually forgive him because you love him that much? She frowned but said yes. And if the cheating person was a friend, could you forgive them too? She looked very uncomfortable. They all seemed nervous. I'd like to think I could after a while if they were really sorry. I grinned. That's great because Jan and George have been seeing each other for about 8 months now. I didn't believe it at first, but I heard the rumors. Before you asked, I was going to tell you, but I had my own problems. I thought you should find out on your own like I did by then. I stopped caring about any of you. That's why I moved away. They said people here were better, so take your hypocritical advice and keep it to yourselves. There was dead silence around the table as I caught my breath. So let the healing begin. Carrie, tell Jan you forgive her. Jan can promise to stop in a few months and everything will be fine. Your marriage will be stronger just like in the cheater's handbook. I stopped to catch my breath again. Let's get Todd and George over here to help clear the air. And Carrie, don't judge too harshly or I'll have to tell about you and a guy during your last girls' trip to the beach. Tina, you and Sandy need new friends. This group is old news. We're done talking about me and Becky, but you all have a lot to discuss. I'm leaving now. Let's never do this again. Goodbye, bye, bye. Maybe it was harsh, but I didn't care. There was a huge fuss at the table, lots of yelling, tears, and some slaps. Sandy grabbed Tina and took her to another table. He wasn't loud, but he pointed his finger at her and she was crying hard. Finally, Marge the bartender told them to quiet down or leave. They all left except for Tina and Sandy. She shyly came up to me. I'm sorry, she said, looking down. Then she gathered her courage and looked up. It's just that we thought you were the best of us. You guys seem so happy. When you and Becky broke up, I didn't think it was the end. I thought you might cool off and talk it out. But I guess everyone's shocked by how serious you are about this, especially Becky. You really are done with her, aren't you? Yes, Tina, I am. But you've got it wrong. You and Sandy are the best people I know. Learn from this and be more careful with friends in the future. Go home now, love each other, and if nothing else, remember me and Becky and how you can never be sure of anything, especially when it comes to betrayal. Maybe I'll see you around. Sandy apologized again before they left, holding hands. Marge nodded at them as they walked away. They seemed like a nice couple, but as for the others, I'm not so sure. Your hometown's divorce court might get busier soon. I nodded in agreement. Then I gave her my keys and $30 for a cab. I switched to drinking whiskey. I was just as surprised as anyone else by my reaction. I always thought of myself as a good guy, and I guess I still do. But you never know how someone will handle stress and betrayal. Loving her so much made the betrayal worse. At first, I wasn't really drawn to Becky. She flirted too much and seemed unsettled. We didn't date for the first 2 years I knew her. She was best friends with Cindy, my business partner's wife. Cindy kept trying to set us up. Give it a rest, Sin. We're just not interested in each other. Speak for yourself. I know she's interested. You'd be good for her. Half drunk, I smiled and kissed her cheek. But dear Sin, would she be good for me? She dropped it for about 6 months. Then Alan, my partner, asked me for a favor. Jace, I know it's late notice, but all of us, Cindy, Becky, and her date, we're going to the theater tomorrow. Mamma Mia is playing, and I know you love musicals. Becky's boyfriend and she had a big fight and broke up. Would you come with us and keep her company? I thought for a moment. No thanks, Al. I don't think I'd enjoy it with a weepy or angry woman. Besides, you chose the show because you've been talking about it for weeks. We laughed. Later that evening, Cindy called. Please, Jace, she's a mess right now. She needs the company of a decent man. But I don't need the company of an emotional woman. She'll behave, I promise. Please, please, please. I sighed. All right. But only because I want to see the show. You jerk. Now I have to buy some fancy lube on the way home. Hopefully, cherry-flavored. We laughed for a minute while I tried to picture it. Alan was 6'4" and had a beard. Cindy might barely be 5'3". Seriously, though, thanks. If tonight sucks, I'm going to make you pay for it. Now let's get back to work. We went to dinner first. Becky was sad, but not annoying. I took a good look at her for the first time. She was about 5'7", slender, small chest, but with a great figure. Her all-burned hair was in soft curls at her shoulders. She had a lovely face with brown eyes that often sparkled, and a mouth that seemed to say, "Kiss me now." She knew she was attractive and used it to her advantage. I had seen her charm guys only to laugh and walk away, leaving them hanging. We enjoyed the show. The girls sang their favorite song from the show in the parking lot. I looked at Alan grind. We joined in, and soon half the parking lot was singing the final part together. Afterward, we went for a drink at a small club, I suggested. It wasn't very loud, so we could actually talk. There was a band with 2 keyboards, drums, and a guy who switched between guitar and bass. The music was light and slow. Some couples were dancing on the small floor. Alan and Cindy soon joined them, and Becky pulled me onto the floor. It was slow, soft, and comforting. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" I asked, surprised. "For showing me that good guys still exist. Cindy told me to behave, so I did. I know you didn't want to come, but I'm glad you did." "Me too," I said, realizing I meant it. "Whether you know it or not, you're a great woman, Becky. Tone down the flirting a bit, find someone worthwhile, and you'll be very happy. I'm not judging you, just something I noticed over the years." She smiled. "Thanks, I think. You really think I'm a good woman?" I smiled back. "When you want to be, either way you've got the nicest figure I've ever seen. Have you noticed that when we're together I'm always a step or two behind you?" She blushed and playfully punched my arm. "Thanks, I think." The song ended and we walked back, chatting and smiling. Cindy looked amazed. "What were you two talking about? How Jay-Z says I'm a good woman most of the time, and what a nice figure I have." Alan almost choked on his drink, and Cindy laughed. I looked at him. "What? Don't tell me you haven't noticed?" Cindy looked at him curious. "What about my behind, honey?" He was stuck for words until I stepped in. "You do have a nice behind, Cindy, but hers is even better. But listen, you have an amazing chest." Both women stared at me like I was nuts. Alan started laughing. "Stop, Jay-Z. Quit before you make it worse. Honey, you do have a nice behind, and your chest is way better than hers." But it's you I love, and that's what matters. Nice save, Alan, I thought, remembering what a good talker he was. Becky just smiled, turned around, and shook her behind at him. I wished I had a camera that night. Not to be left out, Cindy pulled my head to her chest, nearly smothering me. We all laughed until we cried, had one more drink, and danced 3 more times. Becky danced close to me during the last song, making me feel awkward in a pleasant way. She then pulled back, smiling. "You're a good guy, Jay-Z, but you're still a guy." She gave me a good kiss and made me promise to call her soon. I didn't call for 2 weeks. That Saturday, I got a stern call from Cindy. "You jerk," she said. She called me that a lot. I hoped it was meant kindly. She was starting to think there were good guys out there, and then you don't call. She's really hurt. "Cindy," I said calmly, after she finished. "What? What has Alan been doing for the last 2 weeks? You know damn well what he's been doing. You've been keeping him at the office all those crazy hours to finish the Jameson project." "Exactly," I said softly. "And what was I doing all this time? Making Alan work like crazy because you both practically live at the office. What's that?" "Oh, yeah." Oh, suddenly she was apologizing. "I'm sorry, Jay-Z. I didn't think I should have told her. We'll call her now. Tell her if she's still interested. I'll call next Thursday." I will. I wasn't thinking. Later, I often thought about what I said next and how true it was. "Relax, Cindy. She's your friend. Of course you want to protect her and help her be happy. I understand. Gotta go." She was still talking when I hung up. I did call on Thursday, and she sounded really happy. We set up a date. She wanted to see a movie and then go back to our club. I suggested we also have dinner. We had a great time. The movie was bad, one of those cheesy tear-jerkers. But the dinner and dancing were wonderful. By the time we left the bar, she was holding onto my arm tightly. I surprised her by not coming inside when I dropped her off. She looked disappointed until I explained. "I'd love to come in, honey, but Alan and I are working tomorrow. We're nearly done with this big project. This job and another one we're hoping to get will make us a lot more secure. So we're going all out right now." Calling her honey seemed to do the trick. I got a really strong kiss followed by another. I finally had to stop. "Darn, do you know how hard it's going to be working tomorrow thinking about these kisses? If I mess up this job, I'm blaming you." She giggled sweetly. "You'll do fine if you like those kisses, just wait for the better ones." That wasn't your best, more giggling. No, that was an "I really like you" first date kiss. Keep impressing me and you'll get the best ones soon. Now go conquer the business world. Call me soon. She and Cindy surprised us by showing up the next day with a home-cooked meal. "You have to eat, right?" she said, walking past me. They set the conference table and we ate a feast fit for a king. Afterwards, they cleaned up and packed. I found her bouncing up and down on the conference table. "What are you doing, making sure it's strong enough? I don't want it to break when we celebrate." Cindy laughed and joined her. "Yeah, it'll hold us. Bye, honey." Becky got up. "Yeah, bye, honey. See you this weekend. We're going to the lake, grill and swim. You guys need some sun. As an ad guy, I know one of the most important rules is to show your best while hiding the weak points." The girls both had new swimsuits. Becky's top was modest, but the bottom was tiny. Cindy had a modest bottom, but her top was barely there. I still don't know why we weren't kicked out of the state park. Maybe the fact that the lifeguards and the park manager were men helped. Alan and I almost burned the stakes because we couldn't stop looking at the girls. They finally laughed and put on light covers. We ate, we played in the water, and joined a volleyball game against 4 guys. Every time they started winning, Becky would bend over to pick up the ball or Cindy would jump up and down. We won, even though we weren't very good. Just before dark, they pulled us into the water, snuggling close. The almost naked touch got me excited quickly. We were kissing when she pulled back and dived underwater. She came back up smiling. Cindy did the same. "Sorry," she said. "We were getting too warm." That night is something I'll always remember. Even now, as hurt and heartbroken as I am, I can't help but think about it. We were always together. Cindy and Alan would meet us for lunch once or twice a week. One brought food, the other went out. We found out the conference table was pretty sturdy, the couch not so much. We had to replace it after Alan and Cindy had lunch on it one day. We were close to moving in together when we hit a rough patch. I always thought it was a warning I should have paid attention to. We landed a big account we wanted badly. It meant many hours of work until we could afford to hire someone. I usually worked more hours than Alan so he could spend time with Cindy. Becky and I hadn't gone out in 3 weeks. She was used to getting lots of attention, and it didn't sit well with her. She was grumpy the last 2 phone calls, despite my apologies. One Saturday around 5, I had enough. Screw this, I thought. I planned to call her and spend some quality time. She wasn't home. I called Cindy, and she said Becky was out with her work friends after scolding me for not paying her more attention. I wasn't pleased. All right, if that's how you feel, tell Alan that starting next week he works every hour I do. Sound good? She tried to backtrack when I hung up. 40 minutes later, Becky called. "Where are you?" she asked. "I couldn't reach you, so I went back to work. Enjoy your night out. I'll call you tomorrow." She was still trying to talk when I hung up. Cindy had ruined my mood, and I wanted to be alone. I went back to work but decided to eat something. There was a small place down the street from the office that had amazing hot dogs, so I stopped and ate 2 piled high with toppings with a large order of handmade onion rings. After all, I wouldn't be kissing anyone tonight, right? I still grabbed a couple of breath mints on the way out. I started heading home when I remember the club Cindy had mentioned. It was similar to one we liked, but it focused on jazz. She had read about it and thought it might be a nice change. Maybe they'd be there. Either way, I could check it out. It was a nice place with soft lighting, dark wood, a pub-style kitchen, and a nice bar. They had a 3-piece band, drums, piano, stand-up bass. They were pretty good, even though I wasn't a big jazz fan. I remember thinking Becky would like it when I heard her laugh. It made my day. This had been where she had gone with her girlfriends. She was doing the same as me, checking it out. I started into the lounge area when she came into view, arm in arm with a guy I'd never seen, heading towards the dance floor. It didn't worry me. We were often asked to dance by others. We did, but not often. I looked around the floor and didn't see any single girls, I decided to hang back and see what was happening. I took a small table to the side and watched. There was no one else at the table. They danced 3 more times, the last with his hand firmly on her bottom. The kiss at the end and the one at the table confirmed it. I hadn't asked her to be exclusive, but I expected her to be upfront if she was seeing others. I can't deny it hurt. It did. A lot. I saw it as a life lesson and was about to leave when I remembered the remark about being out with the girls. I called the waitress and had her bring them a round of drinks in 5 minutes, tipping her $20. She had the instincts of a good cocktail waitress or bartender. "There's not going to be any trouble, is there?" I assured her, saying I was leaving. They were friends of mine, and I felt silly not noticing before. The drink was an apology because I had to leave and hadn't talked to them. She kind of bought it. I waited a minute and dialed her number. The band took a break and I heard the phone ring from where she was sitting. She picked it up after saying something to the person next to her. "Hi, honey. Did you change your mind?" Her voice sounded so genuine. "No, I'm tired. I'm heading to bed. Say hi to the girls for me. Where are you? It's really quiet." The band's on break and the girls went to the bathroom. I'm watching the drinks. The waitress came over with their drinks. They glanced at me, so I stepped out of the shadows. "The hat's nice, isn't it? Tell your friend she shouldn't go into the restroom dressed like that. People might get the wrong idea." Her mouth opened and closed a couple of times before she could react. I was already out the door. I sat in the dark parking lot across the street and watched as she came out, looking around frantically. Her date followed her and said something, but she shook him off. My phone started ringing, but I turned it off. I didn't want to talk. Her date kept arguing, but she kept saying no. He finally gave up and went back inside. I wondered what she was waiting for. 15 minutes later, Cindy arrived in her SUV. I took a different route to my place. Not in the mood for drama, I found a motel, paid cash, and slept for 10 straight hours. When I got home, no one was there. I showered, changed, and left again. I went by the office, but Alan and Cindy were there. I figured Becky was close by, so I drove away to the mountains about 4 hours away. I called and left a message at their house saying I needed a break and would be back on Tuesday. I slept well. I walked outside enjoying the sun. I ate what I wanted whenever I wanted. I even stopped at a tourist shop and bought some gifts. Tuesday morning, I was at the office early. I parked my car out of sight, and Alan nearly jumped when he saw me. He grabbed his phone. "Use that, and I'm gone for the rest of the week. Got it?" He nodded, watching me carefully. "Good. Let's get to work. I feel great. That break really helped. I have some good ideas. Tell me what you think." We worked until lunch. He was excited about the new ideas. At lunch, I told him I'd be back in an hour. I usually ate a sandwich at my desk and kept working. When I got back, Cindy arrived 20 minutes later. She took a deep breath, but I held up my hand. I'll talk first. Becky doesn't owe me anything except honesty. We hadn't agreed to be exclusive. I would have hated it, but understood if she wanted to see others. But she lied about who she was with and where she was. That says a lot. She tried to speak, but I raised my hand again. Not done yet. Tell her not to bother me. I'll call her this week. One more thing. Did you know she was on a date and then lied to me about it? If I think you did, it would affect our friendship. If I can't trust you, you're not my friend. Understand? She looked pale, and Alan seemed uncomfortable. Then she lied. I didn't know, or I would have stopped her. I'm mad at her too, Jace. I thought she was growing up. I'm as disappointed as you are. I let her have it. When? I asked. What do you mean? When did you let her have it? That night, she called me from the club, crying. We spent half the night looking for you. We finally went to my house and crashed for a few hours. You had come and gone while we were asleep. Can I at least call her and tell her you're back and we'll talk to her? I sighed inwardly. Maybe she was telling the truth. Yes, call her. Now let's get back to work if you want to keep that house and car. At 6 o'clock, I told Alan I was leaving for the day. You're kidding, right? There's a lot to do, and it will still be here tomorrow. No more overworking myself, at least for a while. I left him with his mouth hanging open. The next day, I placed an ad for an associate. Alan was upset because it cut into the profits. Fine, I said. I'll cancel the ad. But if we do, we're working hourly from now on. No more salary. He didn't like that because he knew I worked more hours than he did, so he shut up. I hired a woman straight out of school. She was talented but needed real-world experience. I spent a lot of time with her at first, but she improved quickly. Our business grew because we could handle more work. Ada and I kept the ideas flowing while Alan handled contacts and sales. I called Becky as promised. She didn't know what to say. I waited. I'm sorry, she finally said. For what? I wasn't going to make it easy. For lying to you. For going out behind your back. I was feeling restless and just wanted to get out. I wasn't going to do anything more. I just needed someone to talk to. I surprised her, I understand. And you hadn't made any promises. But I expected honesty and you lied. How can I trust you now? I was hoping for more between us. I thought you did too. Oh well, a leopard never changes its spots. That comment made her angry. Damn you. You always thought I couldn't measure up, didn't you? You probably feel so proud now saying I told you so. I was falling in love for the first time. I was scared and lonely. I never felt like that before. I messed up. I'm sorry, I said softly, just above a whisper. I'm sorry, too. And I was already in love with you, she replied. Her voice begged me to stay, but I hung up. I didn't talk to her for 2 weeks. When I finally did, I was not ready for her reaction. Do you want to go to a club on Saturday? Maybe have dinner at that new Indian place first? She asked, sounding angry. Decided to forgive the sinner, huh? Is my penance over? I asked. I gently hung up again. I didn't need this. Cindy called me. What did you say to her? I asked her out. There was silence. I thought maybe Cindy had hung up. Oh, what did she say? She didn't say yes, and that's all that matters. Good night, Cin. 2 days later, Cindy called me again. I'm with Becky. If I give her the phone, will you talk to her? Yes, but only if she talks and doesn't scream. Make her understand that it's getting easier not to talk to her. She needs to say what she wants without drama. Tell her that, then give her the phone. I heard them whispering for a couple of minutes. Jace, Becky said. Hi, Becky. Jace, I'm really sorry for everything. I'd like to start over. See me as a new person, okay? Alan wants to have a barbecue on Sunday. Will you come over? To visit or to cook? I asked. She laughed a little. Alan would burn concrete if you put it on the grill. Both. I'd like to actually eat, she said. Make your potato salad and it's a date. I will. Thank you, Jace. It took 5 months to really feel close again. I dated others and it made her mad. I told her up front when I couldn't see her and why. She held back her anger. When we decided to be closer, we had a serious talk. If we're close, it's just us. No one else. Do you understand? Even if you go out with friends, if I find out and you didn't tell me it's over, no more second chances. I'm not going to check up on you. You're on your own. If you mess up, it's your fault. She agreed too quickly for my liking. I want you to think about this, Beck. I'm talking long-term here. Don't give me your answer yet. I need to get tested before we do anything. I don't want to bring any infections with me. For the first time, she realized I had been with other people. I saw the tears, but she held them back. All right, honey. I haven't been with anyone since you, but I'll get tested too. And I already know my answer. A week later, we both had clean test results and exchanged keys to our apartments. Being with Beck was always exciting, but getting close again nearly exhausted me. I was sore all over and fell asleep at work twice. Alan said something to Cindy, and she told Becky to let me rest sometimes. She agreed, though reluctantly. I still worked long hours, but not as much as before. The experience had taught me to prioritize. We had been living together for 8 months when I called her at her job. Can you leave work this afternoon? It's important. She agreed right away, so I picked her up and handed her a fast food bag. Sorry, babe. This will have to hold you until dinner. I refused to tell her what it was about. We drove to a nice neighborhood and pulled into a driveway. There was a for sale sign out front and a realtor waiting. Is this your wife? The realtor asked politely. Maybe, I said. I'll know by the end of the day. Becky looked at me like I was crazy. Well, let's have a look, shall we? Really? Men have no clue what's important in a house, don't you agree? They understand structure, brick, and wood, but they don't get comfort or possibilities. The realtor kept talking as she showed us the house. It had 3 bedrooms, a big yard, and a small patio. Excuse us for a moment while we discuss, okay? Becky said to the realtor, pulling me into the living room. Look, honey, a fireplace. She wasn't distracted. She backed me against the mantel. What is going on here? Isn't it obvious? We're house hunting. I don't want to start married life in an apartment, and we'll need the space when we have kids. I don't think she heard much past married life before she jumped into my arms. I scraped the back of my head on the mantel, but I didn't care. Then she cried, then she giggled, then she got serious. Where's my ring? I haven't got it yet. I thought we'd pick it out together. The realtor found us and heard the last part. She laughed. I told you men are clueless. Are you ready to see a few more houses? Becky was so excited she nearly dragged us out. I got to sit in the back while they talked about locations, schools, and shopping. I stopped listening after 5 minutes. We looked at 4 more houses before returning to the first one. When we got to the living room, Becky looked at the mantel, smiled, and said, this one. It took a week to do the paperwork. Our business was booming. We had hired another worker, and Alan was training a new salesperson. With the large down payment I made, we moved in less than a month. We didn't bring any old furniture. I let her choose everything until we got to the patio and the garage. Mine! I said firmly. She laughed and agreed. I spent some money to install an outdoor kitchen and living area with a clay oven. I loved it. We ended up cooking outside most of the year and sometimes even during the colder months. Cindy was a little jealous, and soon we had new neighbors a block over. It made it easier to share rides to work. I swear they wore a path in the sidewalk, always going back and forth. Things went well for 3 years. Cindy couldn't have children, so they decided to adopt. It was a hard and long process, but they were patient. Finally, they adopted twin girls who were 18 months old. We celebrated with a small party which quickly turned into lots of tears as we learned what it's like to watch over 2 active toddlers. Your peaceful days are over, I joked to Alan. No, they're not, he said, wiping away tears. They're just starting. Becky and I were quiet as we walked home. I stopped at our driveway. When I asked, in 4 months, I don't want to be pregnant during the hot summer. She replied, the neighbors must have thought we were crazy, kneeling in the driveway, hugging and crying. Right after that, the economy started getting bad. 6 months later, Becky's company went bankrupt without any warning. She lost her job, her vacation pay, and any severance pay. She was really upset. Calm down, honey. Many companies are failing, including some of our biggest competitors. We're getting more business from their old clients. I might have to work harder, but we'll be okay. And you were great at your job. Someone will hire you soon. But the economy got even worse. She couldn't find another job in her field. Companies preferred to hire fresh graduates for half the salary, even though they had less experience. She worried and brooded. She and Cindy started going to a gym nearby, pushing the kids in strollers. This helped her for a few months. She got in even better shape, becoming really strong. She also started volunteering for some big causes, hoping to meet people who might offer her a job. I didn't like it because she was gone almost every other weekend for some charity event. But I kept quiet, thinking it was good for her. One Friday, she came in late at 2 a.m., waking me gently. I got a job. I'm the new assistant event coordinator for the Sloan Group. Tonight was my trial, and they liked me. They handle 4 major charities. The pay isn't the same as my old job, but it's close, she said, glowing with excitement. She was so happy, and I hugged her, sharing in her excitement. Almost a year went by, and she still wasn't pregnant. We went to see the doctor. He looked at the test results. You're both healthy. There's no reason why you shouldn't get pregnant soon. I think it's the stress from the economy. Stress can affect birth rates. It's the same with animals when food is low or predators are near. Go home. Keep trying. It'll happen. But it didn't happen. The next day, she came to me during lunch. Honey, I need to ask you something, she said, looking nervous. Sure, what is it? I asked. Can I go back on birth control for 1 more year? I want to get comfortable in my new job and build up enough time so I don't lose it over a pregnancy. Just 1 more year, I promise. I actually felt a little relieved. The economy was still bad, and I didn't see it getting better soon, so I agreed. We both had to work harder because many companies were failing. If we didn't take the job for the offered pay, there was another agency ready to do it cheaper. Part of her job was attending events to make sure everything went well. I went when I could, but more and more she went alone. She told me not to worry since she was working. As her husband and a business owner, I was expected to support some of the charities she worked with. We picked 2 that we thought were the most important and committed to them. We even sent someone from our company to represent us at their events. Alan and Cindy helped a few times, but Alan was also very busy, so he stopped going. The economy started to improve slowly but surely. Becky had been in her job for a year and got a small promotion and raise. We started talking about having a family again. I convinced Ada and her husband to represent our company at some of the events. This kept our name and focus and allowed Alan and me to work more. Ada was doing really well, and even other companies tried to hire her. I told her if she got a really good offer, I wouldn't hold it against her if she left. She assured me no one had made a tempting offer yet. Yet I joked. I noticed she seemed a bit sad and was avoiding me unless it was necessary. I figured she had finally received a good offer. I called her in to talk. You haven't been yourself lately, Ada. If I noticed others have too, is something wrong? Ada was a striking woman. Tall, always smiling normally, but now seemed stressed. She looked down and fidgeted with her dress, a sign she was nervous. I've thought a lot about what I'm going to say. My husband has been pushing me to talk to you, so here it is. Please don't be mad. I thought she was going to give me her notice. She took out her tablet, fiddled with it for a bit, then handed it to me. A series of photographs were shown, of Becky and a man I didn't know. There were pictures of them laughing, holding hands, kissing. One had them dancing and his hands were on her bottom. Her dress was pulled up a bit, showing her cheeks. Another pic showed them kissing fiercely in a dim room. These were taken over the last 3 events we've been to. I don't think she knows who I am or that I work for you. The last time she knew I was there, she spoke to me very professionally. Maybe you knew about this already, but I didn't want to assume. Please don't fire me. I was in shock. It had to be some kind of joke. I imagined going home and Becky would laugh and all our friends would jump out and say, "Gotcha," and explain everything. But deep down, I knew it was real. I sat for a minute, then told a nervous Ida her job was safe. I asked if she could transfer the images to my computer and make me a copy. She stood up. You didn't know, did you? I'm so sorry. If you need anything, ask. She came around and hugged me. It was the first time we had ever hugged in all the years we had worked together. Again, I'm sorry. I am too, I said. Please don't tell anyone about this. She promised and quickly left the office, scared of the look on my face. I'm usually good with ideas, but I was stuck. So I did what I always did when facing a problem. I started researching. All I had now were pictures taken by an amateur. I needed strong evidence. His name was Johnny Walker. He hated scotch. I should have been named Jim or Jack. I'm a bourbon man through and through. He came highly recommended as one of the best in his field. So I hired him. In just 2 weeks, he got me everything I needed. We met at a bar owned by one of his friends. There were private rooms, and we used one. I didn't want to be seen going into his office, and he agreed. I even bought a burner phone to use just for talking to him, locked it in my desk. I know it sounds paranoid, but if it turned out to be nothing, I didn't want Becky to know I had investigated. That wouldn't end well. It's all here, he said, giving me a small briefcase, pictures, videos, interviews with friends and coworkers. Some didn't even know she was married. She doesn't wear her rings at work. They weren't particularly careful. I'm sorry. I handed him a check and picked up the case. He stopped me. You're not going to do anything stupid, are you? Scorched earth, violence? You've been very calm, and that can be scary. It's not worth going to jail for. If you can't forgive her, just cut your losses and move on. I'm not going to hurt them physically, at least. They both knew what they were doing, and what could happen if caught. I paused, thinking. I'm not going to hide money, make wild demands, or play games, and I'm not going to fight to keep her. I should never have to fight for her. She broke the marriage by her own choice. I'm just going to walk away. Does that make me weak? No, it doesn't. It shows good judgment. You're calm and logical under pressure, which is rare. They probably didn't consider the consequences. Few do. Got a lawyer? I shook my head. I waited for the report. He wrote something on a notepad and handed it to me. I work with these three a lot. They're all good. The first one is aggressive. He isn't happy until there's a fight. The second one tries to stop divorces not good for your situation. The third is your man. He likes to keep things clean and calm while doing the best for you. If you don't have anyone lined up, give him a call. Mention me for a discount. He walked to the door. Before leaving, he gave me more advice. If I were you, I wouldn't watch the DVD or look at the pictures. It won't help and will just give you bad memories. Same with the report. You know enough already. Read the red envelope, though. There's some interesting stuff about your friends and their knowledge of her affair, and we'll keep the phone tap on for 2 more weeks, as you asked. Again, I suggest not listening. Call if you need anything else. I took the case to my office, took out the red envelope, and locked the case in the bottom drawer of my file cabinet. I decided to follow his advice for now. I called the third lawyer on the list and set up a meeting. Paul Whitfield ran a small office with 2 other partners. Their office was in an old building with fancy trim, high ceilings, and ceiling fans. He saw me looking and grinned. We owned the building. I insisted on keeping the fans. They add character. I liked him right away. He warmed up during the meeting, and by the end, I felt I could trust him with my divorce. He liked the idea of an amicable split and said he could improve the settlement. It wasn't a no-fault state, which made things easier if she didn't fight. Do you think she will? I really don't know what she's thinking or doing anymore. When can we file? Thursday or Friday? Which do you prefer? I thought for a moment. Can it be done on Saturday evening? He looked at me. This isn't going to get stupid, is it? I smiled for the first time. Probably. Hold off until Monday and serve her then. She should be home by 7. Not at her office? No. Let her keep a little dignity. Besides, if she's fired, wouldn't I have to support her? Smart man. He grinned and shook my hand, then turned serious again. Call me if you remember anything else or have more questions. Thanks for your business, even if it's sad. I'll call before she gets the papers if you want. I got everything in order. I found a nice 2-bedroom house in the next town over. I thought about an apartment, but I preferred houses. It meant a 35-minute drive to work, but it was a quiet area, and I didn't think she'd find me there. I read the red folder. It made me so angry to learn how many people I knew had known about or helped hide her affair. Their time would come, especially 4 of them. I acted normal at work and kept the act at home for the week. She was in a flirty mood on Thursday, hinting at a nice weekend. By then, she was just a body to me. It wasn't about love anymore. You seemed a bit distracted tonight, honey. Am I not enough for you anymore? She tried to be playful, but I could hear fear in her voice. You've always been enough, Beck. I'm just tired and stressed. Let's sleep. I tried, but I couldn't cuddle with her, so I turned away and pretended to sleep. She snuggled up to me. Love you, baby. I didn't answer, still faking sleep. I think she knew, but she said nothing. I couldn't stand it. Slipping into what Paul called stupid territory. I waited almost an hour after the event started before going in. I stood at the edge of the crowd watching. They held hands and stole little kisses. The band started playing and they danced. He was a better dancer than me. Other than that, I didn't see it. He wasn't taller or more fit than me. No accounting for taste, as my aunt used to say. I was almost at them when I stopped. Cindy. She walked up to them. They hugged and laughed. I wondered if Alan knew she was here. People moved out of my way. Becky noticed the crowd parting and turned, still holding his hand, and looked right at me. She froze for a moment, then tried to speak and let go of his hand. He smiled, the happy smile of a man with a good life, and held on. "Friend of yours, hun?" He finally let go and held out his hand. "No," I growled. "Husband." He went pale and stepped back. I looked at Becky. "Are you going to introduce us?" "Jace, honey, it's not what it looks like. Don't bother. It's exactly what it looks like. My wife with another man, to put it nicely. Or I could say the jerk she's cheating with, the guy she's seeing, the worthless loser who has no problem with a married woman." I was getting louder, and I paused to calm down. Her boyfriend tried to disappear into the crowd. Many people were listening. I called out to him, drawing more attention. "Where do you think you're going? You've got the guts to be with her, but not to face the consequences. Doesn't say much for you, does it? But don't worry, she's yours now. I don't need her." Becky pulled my arm, begging me to calm down and talk. I pushed her hand away. "I know, Beck, I know. Don't try to explain. Don't insult me by lying. We're done, completely. Understand? I left you something on the dining room table. It should bring back good memories for you." I looked at Cindy, who was standing nearby, looking terrified. "And you ever speak to me again? If we're in the same room, stay as far away as possible or leave." "No, wait. Did Alan know?" She looked down. "That told me enough. Then tell him we're done as business partners. He can buy me out or I'll sell my half." It all blew up. She called. Alan called. Cindy called, over and over. I didn't answer, erased the messages. I kept my car in my garage with the door down. I could walk to a grocery store and a bar. I didn't like the bar, but the store was fine. I shocked Alan by showing up at the office Monday. He started to talk, but I stopped him. "I know you knew," Cindy told me. "I'll never forgive her for helping your wife. And before you say yes, she helped by keeping it secret. So tell your wife to stay away from the office and me. If she insists on being here, I won't be. I'll let the business fail and walk away. This includes Becky, her boyfriend, or any of our so-called friends. Leave it alone." I had already called the police about restraining orders. They told me to talk to my lawyer. By 9, Becky and Cindy were pounding on my office door. I called Alan. "If you want to keep the business, make them leave, now or I'll leave and not come back." I could hear them arguing through the door. Becky refused to leave and Cindy supported her. Alan tried to make them understand. "Please, girls, I'm begging here. This is his place of business as well as mine, and he has the right to conduct it as he sees fit. If you push it, he'll have grounds for a restraining order, and that would be bad. He was really upset and told me he wants to sell his part of the business. If I don't buy it, he'll find someone else. We can't afford that, Cindy. Not now. We're just starting to find success. He's the one with all the ideas, the brains of our business. I just sell what he thinks of. It would ruin us, Cindy. Think about the kids." I heard some more quiet talking, then silence. He called. "They're gone. You can come out of the office now." "I don't think so. As long as I'm in here, I'm away from all this drama. Go back to work. Try to figure out what you're going to do and ask Ada to come in, please." He started begging again, but I hung up. "It's been a few interesting days. Do you want to hear about it?" she said as she sat down. Curiosity got the better of me, so I nodded. "I was there. You had forgotten about it, hadn't you? I almost lost it when I saw you. Mac, her husband, and I tried to catch you, but you were too fast. Mac said he saw a lot of anger on your face. He said you scared quite a few people. After your little speech and storming out, it was chaos for a while. Becky tried to follow you, but Cindy and the guy held her back. I was close by and heard Cindy tell Becky to give you some time to calm down. Becky was crying, saying if she didn't talk to you then, she'd never get another chance. But by the time she got free, you were gone. A lot of the guests left after that. I think the donations that night were less than they had hoped." She stopped and looked at me. "Do you know the guy's name?" "Yes, and his age, where he lives, what car he drives, his past, and everything else. A good private investigator could find out." She shivered a little. "You're not going to do anything bad, are you?" "Yes," I said, making her pale. "I'm going to ignore him. Every time he goes around a blind corner or hears a loud noise behind him, he'll think it's me. He'll be nervous for a while. Eventually, he'll figure out I don't care about him at all, and that will be the biggest insult." "What about your wife?" They almost had to carry her out of the place. I think she started to understand how bad it's going to be. I don't have a wife, I said, straight-faced. Then I smiled to ease her mind. But if anything ever happens and you find yourself single, I'd be there like a politician on election day. Not all white guys are that bad. She smiled. I don't usually date outside my race, but for you, I'd make an exception if things changed. We stood up and she hugged me. It felt nice. She gave me a big hug. I couldn't help it. I smiled. She grinned back. I'm going to stop on the way home and get something nice for future dreams. We laughed, hugged again, and worked for the rest of the afternoon. When I came out, there were 2 letters on my bike seat. One from Cindy, one from Beck. I knew Alan was watching as I dropped them on the ground and left. I hadn't gone a block when I saw a familiar SUV behind me. I laughed into my helmet. Let the chase begin. I was on my Yamaha Roadstar with a powerful engine. It was my one sign of success. It was 2 years old, a repossessed bike I got for a good price. Beck loved it, and we spent many afternoons riding around exploring. Keeping them close, I suddenly made a right turn on red. They were 2 cars behind and got stuck. I turned into a parking lot 3 blocks down, waited until I saw them drive by, and then went back the way I came from. They were probably still driving around in circles when I pulled into my garage. I carried a burner phone with me and left my regular phone locked in my desk drawer. I still used it for business, but I screened and deleted everything except calls from my customers and lawyer. Beck finally sent a registered letter which I signed for and sent back unopened. My lawyer did all my talking. She's a firecracker, he said, and she knows a lot of colorful words. She was living in the house and I was making half the payment. I told my lawyer to let her know it would stop 6 months after we were divorced, hoping to sell it or for her to buy me out. I knew she couldn't afford it. She refused to get a lawyer. Paul shrugged. She isn't required to, but you can bet at the first hearing the judge will strongly suggest she get one. That will be her first attempt to drag it out as long as she can. She's not going to let go. I saw it in her eyes. I'm fine with billing the hours, but at some point, you need to talk to her or just give up and withdraw the request. He saw my look and held up his hands. I'm not saying go back to her, just keep ignoring her. It may take a while, but eventually she'll get tired and agree to the divorce. Let's wait till the actual hearing. Maybe she'll realize she's fighting a losing battle and be reasonable. You really think so? I felt a tiny bit of hope. Nope, he said, grinning as he walked me out. She got her friends to try to talk to me. Bad idea. Really, bad idea. Word got out about my reactions and most of them understood it was a forbidden subject. Then her mom tried to talk to me. I had always liked her, and I told her if she needed any help, I'd be insulted if she didn't call me. But if she mentioned her daughter again, I would never speak to her. My mom got involved. I tried to make her see things my way. It didn't work. I left and didn't come back for 3 months. She started in again the moment I returned, trying to get me to be reasonable. I left, and she called me 2 weeks later, crying and promising to never bring it up again. I think she finally understood. Now she was giving me the sad, I'm suffering in silence. But you know I'm right. Look, she wasn't helping me much. She did mention that I should talk to someone. Your anger is changing you, dear. It's not good. You need to find your balance again for your own sake. I thought about it for a while. I tried to keep the anger separate from the rest of my life. It didn't work. It was worst when I saw Cindy. She still came by the office sometimes. She knew better than to say anything. My eyes told her what I thought. Cindy and Alan were struggling. They were stressed trying to save the business. Alan once tried to talk to me. By then I was calm enough to hear what he had to say, even if I still didn't trust them. Please, Jace, I'm begging you. If you pull out, I'll be ruined in 6 months. I've worked as hard as you to make this work. I'll lose everything, the house, the cars. I have kids to take care of. They need a good life. Instead of calming me, it made me madder. Really? You're bringing the kids into this? Did you ever think about how I would feel knowing my best friends betrayed me? You should have thought about that before. Maybe if you remembered how I reacted the last time she did this, you would have done something. Were you thinking about the kids while you were lying to me? He got angry and turned red. Damn it. It's time for you to get over yourself and think about the damage you're causing because you're hurt. She cheated on you. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have let Cindy and me get involved. I was trying to protect you. Do I need to fight you to make you understand? Wrong thing to say. You wanted to protect me? Then why didn't you tell Cindy she was making a mistake? Threatened to tell me if she didn't stop. I think you were more worried about the business than me. This cash cow is done, Alan. You're good at what you do. You'll find a job easily, especially now that the economy is picking up. You might not live as well as now, but you'll be fine. Cindy could get a job too. It might be a wake-up call for her. And about fighting me, you have no idea how much I want you to try. My mom says I need to let out some of my anger. Beating you up might help. Now if you're done, get out of my office. Go work on your resume or something. Alan is 6'4". I'm just 6 feet tall and he weighs 60 pounds more than me, but he doesn't have my rage. He grabbed me, spun me around and started to say something. I didn't give him a chance. I swung at him with all my anger and pain. It hit him right between the eyes. He went down like a collapsing building. I stood over him, rubbing my knuckles. We're done here. Get out and don't come back unless I say so. The door was open and Ben, our new salesman, was standing there with his mouth open. I think I'll work from home for the rest of the day. Help him up, will you? It was 2 days before I went back. Alan had been treated for a concussion and looked like a raccoon with 2 black eyes. From then on, we only talked through email. The punch scared me. Mom was right. I needed help. Kathy Grimes was one of the best therapists I could find. It took 2 weeks to get an appointment. She was about my age, pretty, professional, with a warm and kind manner. Her office walls were covered with family photos showing she was happily married with 2 preteen kids. Nice-looking kids, I said, looking at the pictures. She smiled. Thanks. Do you have any? No, I sighed. I don't think it will happen for me. Oh, in this field, I've learned to never say never. You're young. There's plenty of time. Sit down, chair or table. Her office looked like a cozy living room. In one corner was a simple wooden table with comfortable cushions on the chairs. Table. Good choice, she smiled. I find it's more relaxing. She placed a picture of water, a coffee pot, and a plate of cookies on the table before sitting down. Homemade oatmeal raisin cookies, water, or coffee. After pouring the water, she got down to business. First, tell me why you wanted to see me and what you hope to achieve by the end of our sessions. I liked her straightforward approach. I'm having a tough time. I have anger issues. I want help to control it. I'm tired of being this way. Even I don't like myself much. That's clear. Now the big questions. What made you so angry? Can it be fixed? Do you want to fix it or move on? For the next 90 minutes, I talked about my past, my relationship, marriage, and what came after. How much I had loved her. How much she had hurt me. She listened, took notes, and asked questions sometimes. By the end of the session, I felt a bit lighter. You've given me a lot to think about. I'll review my notes before our next session. Same time next week, okay? And if your anger gets too much, call me. I'll try to fit you in. Do you want me to prescribe something to help you relax? No thanks. I'll see you next week. I had been going to therapy for a month and I was starting to feel better. That's when she wanted to share some thoughts. Jace, you're a good guy in a tough spot. You've been deeply hurt and you feel betrayed. That's why you react so strongly when someone mentions your wife. I see this kind of thing often, but I've never seen someone feel betrayal this deeply. It's eating you up inside. In my opinion, you still love your wife. She raised her hand before I could speak. It doesn't mean you want to stay with her. The fact that your friends either supported her or ignored what she did makes it worse. And when they told you to just move on and forgive her, it didn't help. It keeps the pain fresh. In the end, you have to decide if you'll be happier with her or without her. I thought about it for a few minutes. It sucks either way. She's betrayed me twice now. If I take her back no matter what she promises, she'll think she can mess up again and I'll just forgive her. I can't risk that. I couldn't handle going through this again. I paused and she waited. So I guess we're done. I still love her. But love isn't the issue here. Trust is. I can't ever trust her again. And that says it all. And our so-called friends, I understand it would be a hard conversation, but those who helped her gave her alibis and kept her secret. They're dead to me. Looking back, I realized they were mostly her friends anyway. I've always been a bit of a loner. I like people, but I don't need to be around them all the time. There's a song lyric, being alone doesn't mean I'm lonely, that's me. She nodded. That fits with what I understand. My opinion is go ahead with the divorce, but you need to talk to her. As long as you don't, she will hope to get you back. Tell her why it will never happen. Make her understand, and she might stop fighting the divorce. You fought counseling before, but you seem calm enough now to consider it. It could get you the results you want faster. I can set up joint sessions if you like. Your choice, but that's my advice. I thought about it for a while. I was tired. It needed to be over. Maybe if we went to counseling together, she would finally understand and let go. You think she'll come? She nodded. I'm almost sure. She'll see it as a chance to win you back. But it could be painful. I told her to set it up. I've been in pain since I found out. I'm pretty sure a bit more won't kill me. The sad part was, I knew she still really loved me. I knew because I listened to her phone calls for the next few weeks before I let Johnny remove the taps. In the first days after we split, she mostly called me. The messages I didn't listen to on my phone I heard anyway. Most were tearful pleas for me to talk to her, to let her explain. After about 50 messages, it was down to one sentence. Please talk to me, Jace. Please. Her talks with friends were interesting, especially with Cindy. God, we really messed up, didn't we? Yes, we did. I don't know what I was thinking, Cindy. Why did I do it? She actually giggled. You did it because it was fun. You thought you could have both him and the other guy, and he'd never know. I never thought he'd find out either. I'm sorry, Alan found out, but I knew he'd never tell because he needed Jace too much. Hell, we all need him. You know he's trying to leave the partnership, right? Says if we do it in our private life, what was he up to in the business? We need to fix this, Beck. The question is how. I see a lot of begging for forgiveness in our future. Becky cried softly. I don't think there's enough begging in the world to fix this sin. He's really mad. He left me a folder, pictures, interviews. You'd be shocked how many people were ready to talk against me. I can't believe how arrogant we were. Some of her friends were no better. Most talked about ways to get me to meet her, even considering drastic measures. Most promised to talk to me. Their reports afterward were amusing. One woman really scolded her. I'm done. He almost yelled at us and we deserved it. He asked my husband if I was okay with you having an affair and helping you cover it up. What was I doing when he wasn't around? I'm still begging for forgiveness. Jack is really mad. I'm pretty sure you're done, Beck. I know we are. I wouldn't ask anyone else to talk to him. Sorry, hun. The other guy called her 3 times. She hung up the first time, but the next 2 were enlightening. Don't hang up, Becky. We're in serious trouble here. We need to talk. Our jobs are on the line. You think I care about the job, Greg? The worst mistake I made was starting to work with you. I could hear his irritation. Get off your high horse, girl. You almost begged for this job. It might have been my idea to fool around, but you didn't hesitate when I brought it up. Speaking of that, want to get together? He's not coming back, and you know it. The look in his eyes that night scared the hell out of me. We could comfort each other. He'd never find out. She lost her cool. Remember the last time we thought that? How did that turn out? And if he's already this mad, what do you think he'd do if he found out again? No, Greg, never again. Calm down. It was just an idea. I have to face the board of directors next week. They've heard about our situation. You might get a call, too. We need to decide how to handle this. She laughed. Handle this? If they ask, I'm going to tell the truth. We had an affair. It's both our fault. I'll promise it's over and it won't happen again if they let me stay. They probably won't. He tried again. They'll fire me, Becky. Even if they don't fire you, this is all I've ever done. If they let me go and the reason gets out, I'll never work in this field again. She softened a bit. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. It's our fault, but I have to be honest. If I'm not and Jace finds out I'm done for, I do like you, Greg, but you're not worth my marriage. She seemed sincere. I made a meeting with their boss. He came with his lawyer, terrified I'd sue. That would hurt their funding badly in this economy. Their company had a strict moral code. They could lose contracts and struggle to get new charities if they were seen as immoral. They usually had a clean record. I played the tape for them. Before you say anything, I need you to know this tape is legal. If things get tough, I will use it in my divorce. I let them worry before sharing my plan. I won't take legal action if you agree to my terms. First, my wife can never know about this meeting. Second, reprimand her, demote her, whatever, but don't fire her. She needs a job during our divorce. Do what you like with Greg. I think this isn't his first time and won't be the last. He's trouble. Again, that's just my opinion. Do we have a deal? Good. We can't write this agreement down, but I recorded our conversation. Here, I handed them the recorder but didn't tell them about the second one still recording. Now, if I cause trouble, you can use this tape. One more thing. You have a volunteer, Cindy Waller. She helped my wife with the affair. It would be best if she is not linked with your organization anymore. They nodded in agreement. Becky got demoted and put on probation but kept her job. Cindy was upset when they asked her to volunteer elsewhere, but she got it. Jace was behind this. She whined to Becky. So what if he was? Alan would probably agree if he admitted it. You're judged by your friend's sin, and right now I'm toxic. Greg was allowed to resign without a recommendation. I don't know where he went, but he called Becky to say goodbye. They let me go. It was polite, but I'm out without a recommendation. I guess this is goodbye. Becky was sympathetic. I'm sorry, Greg, but we brought this on ourselves. At least you're not married. There was a pause. Actually, Becky, I am. She's overseas in a tough place right now. She'll be back in 3 months, you jerk. How could you do that to her? At least Jace is home and safe. I'm a jerk. I agree. But I was lonely and you were there. I'm sorry. Are you going to tell her? No. I don't know how to contact her. But even if I did, she doesn't deserve this. Love her when she gets back and never make this mistake again, I promise. I'm so sorry for how everything turned out. I hope you and Jace can fix things. You're a strong woman, Becky. Goodbye. She cried into the phone before hanging up. I thought about reaching out to his wife, but decided against it. If he kept up like this, she'd find out soon enough. Kathy contacted Becky, who was eager to talk to me. Kathy suggested she attend 3 sessions alone first. I think Kathy wanted to prepare her, but Becky was too stubborn to see it. The first session finally came. I thought she'd try to ambush me, so I arrived 30 minutes early. Becky was surprised when Kathy brought her in to find me already there. Jace! She cried, trying to hug me. Kathy stepped between us. Becky, for this to work, you need to give him space. He doesn't want any physical contact. If you don't stick to the rules, he'll leave and won't come back. Understand? It took a moment, but she sat at the table. Becky, listen. I know you have things to say, and so does Jace. Remember, be calm, be clear, and avoid drama. Do you want to start? She nodded, and we waited. First, I want to apologize, Jace. I know what I did was wrong. You have every right to be angry. I have no excuse. I don't even know why I did it. Was it worth the pain? No way. Would I be that stupid again? Never. But Kathy said being sorry won't change anything if you can't forgive me. I know I messed up and ruined a good marriage. Now I need to convince you to give me another chance. Will you promise to talk to me? After our therapy sessions, if you still can't forgive me, I'll leave and I won't fight the divorce. I looked between her and Kathy. I could see Kathy's influence. Maybe these solo sessions had helped after all. She waited for me to speak, so I started talking. I know it was hard for you to say that back. I've been thinking a lot these past few days. We've known 5 couples who broke up because of cheating, and they went to counseling to save their marriage. Only one succeeded, Gary and Sherry, and even they don't look happy anymore. They don't hold hands or touch like they used to. It's been 2 years and they still haven't fully recovered. Can you live like that? Knowing I'd always be suspicious if you were away for just an hour or two. If I constantly questioned everything you said, searched your purse, checked your computer and phone regularly, I can't. Becky winced at my words but kept a determined look. If I get to be with you every night, I could. I'd do anything to show you I've changed and that you can trust me again. I threw up my hands in frustration. Ah, there it is again. Trust. How would you make me trust you again? You lied to me even when we were just dating. I should have seen it then. Now, years later, after all this time together, planning a family and a future, you did it again. Were you lonely? Bored because I was busy building a business for us and didn't have time to take you out. Letting this out felt good. Becky looked horrified. Kathy stepped in. Our time is up. I want you to do some homework before our next meeting. Becky, think about what Jace said. Tell him in detail how you plan to gain his trust again. Jace, think about whether you can let go of your anger and try to rebuild your relationship with Becky. Be honest, that's all for now. Jace, can I see you for a moment before you leave? Good night, Becky. We stood and watched as Becky drove away. After 5 minutes, she left the parking lot. Kathy turned to me. You're never taking her back, are you? No, I said sadly. She sighed. I thought so. We need to change the sessions. Help her get used to the idea. If you still care for her, be gentle. Being gentle didn't work. Kathy and I tried, but Becky wouldn't give up. Eventually, I just ended it. You broke your most serious promise, Beck. You made it seem easy. Even now, I know you regret the outcome, but I don't think you see how serious it was. For me, it changed everything. But you treat it like spending too much money or crashing a car. Didn't you feel anything? As usual, she didn't answer directly. You talk about feelings. You're the one who's cold. Give me one more chance, please. How can you be so calm while I'm falling apart? You still don't get it, do you? I have plenty of feelings. It's our emotions, not just our minds, that make us human. Animals think, but we love, hate, and desire. I'm just better at controlling them now. I let her talk for another 30 minutes before I raised my hand and stood up. It's over, Beck. Accept it and move on. I still love you, but it's not enough. The divorce is final in 4 weeks. It's best for both of us. You're still young and beautiful. You'll find someone else. When you do, if you ever feel tempted, think of us. He will deserve your best. I walked out, my heart breaking as I heard her cry. Kathy called me 2 days later. I just had a session with Becky. She still thinks she can win you back. Be careful. I'm really sorry it ended this way. I think you should keep seeing me for a while. Shall we make an appointment? I thought about it. Not now. I'll call you in a month or so. Thanks for everything, Kathy. Kathy was right. Becky made one last effort before giving up. I liked her family, except for her oldest brother. He was a cop. He was also a bully. We barely tolerated each other. He started pulling me over often just to mess with me and demand I forgive his sister. I talked to Paul, who told me to log the next 4 stops. The brother had to explain his actions to his superiors. The stops ended, but it didn't make him like me more. It was 2 weeks before the final hearing. The sun was shining, and I felt happy for the first time in a long while. The Yamaha motorcycle was running smoothly that Saturday morning when police lights flashed behind me. I pulled over. Without warning, the brother tasered me, handcuffed me, and threw me in the back of his car. I came around as he stopped at a park, dragged me out as I ranted, and handcuffed me to a bench. Then he hooked Becky to me. You will listen now. I'll be back in 45 minutes, and you better be smiling. Becky rambled while I tried to clear my head, apologizing. Can we talk now, baby? I looked at her, trying to find the woman I married in her eyes. She wasn't there. Do I have a choice? I said with a smile. Hand me my phone. I have to call someone. Then I'll listen to you, okay? She gave me my phone. I dialed 911. What's your emergency? This is J.C. Gooding. I'm in Armstrong Park on the south side near the gazebo. I've been kidnapped and handcuffed to a bench and someone else. I repeat, I've been kidnapped. Becky looked terrified and tried to grab the phone. She screamed loudly. A lot of people were in the park. Some started coming over. Sir, a car has been sent. Do you know who kidnapped you? Shift Commander Jeff Sterling. I'm handcuffed to his sister. Help! The car arrived in less than 2 minutes. Becky kept screaming as he tried to remove the cuffs. Her brother then arrived, speeding across the grass and pushing people aside. I'll handle this, patrolman. The patrolman looked at me unsurely. If you leave me with him, you're part of this crime. You might go to jail and you'll lose your job. Call someone from higher up. He made the call and soon 6 police cars surrounded us. No one was arrested and I was taken back to my bike. The trouble started the next day. Jeff had everything recorded on his dash cam, me stopping him using the taser and cuffs, the whole thing, until he put me in his car. I could have pressed several charges: assault, kidnapping, misuse of a police car, and more. Becky would be charged as well. I took Paul with me to meet the district attorney about the incident. My client will keep this simple. He won't press charges if the officer is punished by the police and his wife agrees to not go to their final divorce hearing and stops all contact with him. It's your choice, but if they don't accept, we'll go after them hard. Understand? They had no choice. Their parents didn't want 2 of their 3 kids in jail, so they took the deal. Her brother didn't get off easy. He was demoted, given the night shift, and reprimanded. His chances for promotions were very slim. He couldn't quit because no other agency would hire him, so it was over. I went back to my once thriving business. I tried to move on. Actually, I lost my friends, my business, and my wife. It took a long time before I was ready to date again. My business failed because everyone knew what happened and we lost clients. Thankfully, Ada got a better job offer and left with her trainee. Ben quit soon after. The next month, I walked into the office. There was a note on the door. "You win, jerk." Alan found another job. "The paperwork is on your desk, sign it, and the company is officially dissolved." Cindy didn't sign it, but it was her handwriting. There was a little money left. After selling the house and getting my share, I was okay financially. I could even take a year off if I wanted. I took 2 months, got on my motorcycle, and went traveling. I ended up 3 states away below the Mason-Dixon line. It was one of the prettiest cities I'd ever seen, surrounded by mountains. The people were friendly and relaxed. It felt like stepping back to the 60s because everyone was so laid back. I stayed there for 3 days, visiting tourist spots and doing some research. I checked out a few more towns, but none felt the same. So I went back, got a room for a week, and started looking for a house. I saw some condos and apartments, but I preferred houses with good yards. I found one I liked on my 3rd try. It was a small cottage, 1,200 square feet, 2 bedrooms with a large yard and a stream in the back. It was far from neighbors. I leased it for a year with an option to buy. Next, I looked for a job and found one at a small firm that worked with new and medium-sized companies. They gave me a few small accounts to test my skills. 6 months later, the boss wanted to talk. Jace, I had to tell him, wasn't short for Jason. My real name was John Charles. I was called JC until my sister was about 4. She pronounced it JC and then shortened it to JC. It stuck, and I had stopped fighting it years ago. In a typical Southern way, when something important was being discussed, he used both my given names. "John Charles, you've been doing great work so much so that I wondered why you're here. I checked your resume and it was all true. I have a feeling you won't stay long, so I'm going to give you more work. I have a new account for you. A friend of mine owns a successful regional winery and wants to go national. Meet with him, set up some plans, and start brainstorming. This could be great for everyone. If we grow, I want you with us." I was honored. He thought so highly of me. The winery owner was a local who had studied in Italy for 6 years before coming home to care for his aging parents. He took over their farm and used the north-facing slopes to grow imported vines. He started small, adding land and growing the winery over time. Now he leased 3 more farms and had doubled his own land. He'd won several local and regional medals for his sweet wines and wanted to enter the national market. He had a distributor ready and needed an ad campaign to get noticed. I went there and did a wine tasting without revealing who I was. Most wines were really good, though some I didn't like. Finally, I introduced myself and asked for Mr. Edwards. He came in quickly, dressed in his farm clothes. We shook hands, and he asked why I hadn't scheduled a meeting. "I wanted to try your wine, see how you run things, and maybe work on some ideas. I didn't expect you to drop everything for me. I just wanted you to know I visited and set up an appointment in person. What do you think of my wines?" He seemed nervous. "I liked most of them, but I'm no expert. I liked them so much I bought a mixed case to take home." While I was talking, I got an idea. I couldn't wait to get back and start working on it. That didn't happen. Jack insisted I call him by his first name and had me follow him around. He explained everything about the winery, the vines, and more. I ended up spending 3 hours with him. In my free time, I explored the area, taking my motorcycle on the winding mountain roads. I had some work done on it to boost its power, and it was fast when I wanted it to be. I also bought a used but reliable 4-wheel drive truck for the snowy winters. I kept my little Dodge Dart. It was great for one person, and I got the top turbo model. It was supposed to go over 180 miles per hour, but I never got it over 110, and that was only twice. The car and motorcycle stayed in the garage, and the truck stayed outside. One Saturday, I found a little bar in the middle of nowhere. There were a few motorcycles out front, mostly Harleys, but also a Gold Wing and some sport bikes. I decided to stop for a beer. The place got quiet for a minute. They could tell I wasn't a local. I ordered my beer and looked around. It was old, but clean and neat. The people seemed to know each other well, joking and teasing each other. The bartender talked a little after serving the second round. "This place has been in my family for 70 years. He said, "We have a good reputation. No fights and no bothering others, especially women. That'll get you thrown out fast." I praised him, knowing the value of a place where you could relax. Whether it was with people in suits or jeans, people are all the same despite different incomes. He appreciated the praise, bought me the next round, and left me. A big bearded guy took the stool next to me. "Yours?" he asked, looking at my motorcycle through the window. "Yeah," he snorted. "Another fancy import. Don't they sell real American bikes where you come from?" He was grinning to show he was joking. "Which one is yours?" I asked. He pointed at an older, modified Harley. "Nice ride," I said. "The forks are from Italy. The carbs, if they're stock, came from Japan. The tires, if they're stock, were made by a British firm but manufactured in France. Still think it's all American?" He stared at me. "Really?" I nodded. "Really? Still nice bikes, though." After that, half the bar joined the conversation. One guy said his Vulcan was made right here in the U.S. We ended up going outside to look at all the bikes. By the time we came back in, I had made some new friends. I started hanging out at the bar most weekends, going on poker runs and riding with the group. They showed me places I wouldn't have known otherwise. 3 months later, I got my nickname. I had been to see Jack Edwards about the campaign we were planning. I wanted to shoot a commercial in his tasting room. It was made of wood, stone, and glass with a high ceiling and lots of natural light. After I explained, he agreed, as long as we did it on a Monday, his slowest day. He gave me a case of wines I hadn't tried yet, just for an opinion. Many of his wines had names linked to the area. Mill Race Red was named after an old mill on his property. Yankee Orchard White was named after a friend's apple orchard. This friend, a transplanted New Yorker, specialized in rare and new apple varieties. Juice from his pink lady apples mixed with a medium white wine made a smooth drink that tasted like fresh apples with just a hint of grapes. It had been a long day and I needed to relax. I had to go past the bar on my way home, so I stopped in. Forgetting how I was dressed, I walked in. The place went quiet for a minute. Then the laughter and teasing started. "Where you been? A funeral?" Fat Bob laughed. He was the first guy I talked to when I found the place. We'd become good friends. Sometimes I loaned him my truck if his bike was down and he needed to haul it to the shop. I was about to explain when another voice rang out. "Who's the guy in the suit?" I didn't need to turn around. Amanda Patterson, or Baby Doll at the bar, was barely 5 feet tall and had just turned 20. She was cute with red hair and a quick temper. She had a mouth that could make a drill instructor blush. She was sort of a mascot, and nobody bothered her unless she wanted, and I never saw her want. "Hi, Amanda. I got all dressed up to ask for your hand in marriage." I got down on one knee while the bar roared with laughter. She turned red and got mad. Her opinion of love and marriage was well known. I was sure she had some history there, plus she hated being called Amanda. "That's not funny. And what are you all laughing at? Don't make me come over there?" That made them laugh harder. "I won't take that as a no more like you're thinking about it. Do I need to wear the suit until you decide to make an honest man out of me?" She pushed me back and stomped off to the kitchen. Fat Bob helped me up. I wouldn't order anything tonight. She might spit on it or worse. Amanda helped in the kitchen on the weekends for tips and meals. I found out from Ellen, one of the bartenders, that Amanda had a tough life. She was broke, lived in a woman's shelter during the week, and slept at the bar on weekends. It wasn't legal, but no one said anything. She's a good kid who's just had bad luck. We'd hire her full-time if we could afford it. I asked how she got food and why she didn't have a job. Probably soup kitchens. I never asked. I think she has a record from when she was young. Didn't finish high school and has no way to get around. So it's hard for her to get a job. Amanda was there almost every night, staying until she had to go back to make sure she had a bed for the night. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I wanted to feel close to someone. Maybe I wanted to give her hope. I talked to Helen and Sam, the bar owner. I offered to pay for her meals during the week. Sam agreed to let her work 4 hours a night, cleaning and waiting tables for $100 a week in cash. I paid half of that, but she couldn't know it was from me. Here I said giving Ellen $200. Take her shopping. She needs new clothes. Tell her she can pay you back from her wages, $20 a week. Ellen said it was the first time she saw Amanda cry. She bought new underwear, 3 cheap pairs of jeans and 4 plain t-shirts, 2 pairs of marked-down sneakers, and that was it. I thought about it as Ellen told me. Becky, my friend, would pay more for shoes she didn't even like much, wear them a few times, then get rid of them. She probably spent more on makeup in a month than Amanda earned. Amanda didn't come out of the kitchen for the rest of the night. Helen later said she thought Amanda might have cried a little, blaming it on chopping onions. I hoped I hadn't hurt her feelings too much. People at the bar started calling me Suit. They thought it was funny. I made it a point to stop in with my work clothes on from time to time. Whenever I wore a suit, I would ask Amanda if she had changed her mind about disliking me. She still cursed at me, but now she smiled. Everyone in the bar took care of Amanda. One night, a new guy was bothering her. She smiled and tried to ignore him, but he was getting worse. When she bent over to pick up some empty glasses, he pinched her. I moved before I even thought about it. She screamed and poured a half-full beer in his face. "Bitch!" he yelled, pulling back to hit her. I grabbed his arm and pulled him off the chair. Sam and a big guy they called Fat Boy stepped in to stop me from hitting him. Amanda slapped the guy hard as we got him up. "Don't ever touch me again, jerk. Next time my fiancé won't hold back." She blushed when she realized what she said and ran into the kitchen. She came out later thanking me for my help. I grinned. Couldn't let my future bride get hurt, could I? I know you didn't mean it, but maybe let the jerks know you're not available. Think about it. She surprised everyone by kissing my cheek. After the whistles and yells calmed down, she told the crowd she'd kick their butts if they laughed at her and her boyfriend again. This made them laugh harder, and she fled back to the kitchen. 3 weeks later, there was a poker run. We met at the bar, and they opened the kitchen for breakfast. After eating, I felt a tug on my sleeve. Amanda looked embarrassed, but determined. "Can I ride with you?" "Sure, if you have a helmet." She held one up. Fat Boy loaned it to me. She was in jeans and a t-shirt. It was cool that morning. "Go get your jacket. It'll be cold." She looked down. "I don't have one. Haven't needed it yet." I sighed, and she got behind me, keeping her hands down. "Ever been on a bike before?" I asked. She nodded. "Then you know you have to hold on. Come on, I promise I won't hurt you. It's not safe unless you do." Everyone knew she hated being touched. She reluctantly put her hands around my waist. I started slow until she relaxed. Then I turned into a Walmart parking lot. "Why are we here? To get you a jacket. I can feel you shivering. If you want, you can pay me back, or you can accept it as a gift for riding with me. Either way, we're not leaving until you have one." She complained, but I dragged her in and got her a nice jacket, scarf, and gloves. She grumbled more. "If you don't stop, I'm leaving you here. You need these. I don't want you to get sick. Now smile and thank me for being a nice guy." She smirked. "Thanks, jerk. If you want to waste your money, go ahead. Can we catch up with the others now?" We caught up at the second checkpoint. By then, she held on to me tightly. Lunch was at a nice buffet restaurant. She acted like she'd wait by the bike. I leaned in close. "Get inside the restaurant now. If you don't, I'll carry you in. Got it?" She nodded, looking annoyed, but she didn't stop herself from eating a lot. At the end of the day, she was more relaxed. "We want a prize, a $100 gift card to a Harley store." I gave it to her, putting my hand over her mouth when she started to argue. I left it there for a few seconds. When I removed it, her eyes were blazing. If looks could kill. Things went downhill on the way back. It started raining, a cold drizzle that got harder. We were less than a mile from my house and 10 from the bar, so I turned off the main road. When we got to my garage, she hopped off the bike. She took off her new coat, gloves, and scarf and threw them on the floor along with the gift certificate. Her face showed anger and sadness. She completely misunderstood the situation. "You think just because you bought me a few things, you get whatever you want? Take these things back," she yelled. She turned and started to walk away. It took me a minute to calm down. Then I got into my car and went looking for her. She had walked about a quarter of a mile and it was raining hard. I pulled up beside her. "Get in the car, Amanda! Go away!" she shouted, trying to walk past. I grabbed her arm. "You have a choice. You can get in and I'll drive you back to the bar, or you can refuse and I'll make you get in the car. Your choice." She tried to push past me. "You wouldn't dare." I was bigger and angry. I pushed her face down on the car hood and smacked her. She screamed mostly out of surprise. I hit her 2 more times before she started begging me to stop. "I'll get in the car. I'll behave. I promise. Please, no more." I let her go and opened the passenger door. She got in without saying a word. We drove for a mile before she started to talk. I held up my hand, not a word, or I'll pull over and finish what I started. Then I'll leave you here. Understand? She nodded, wide-eyed. I pulled into the bar's parking lot and opened her door. Out. Now. She got out. I slammed the car door and drove away fast, tires screeching. I didn't return for 3 weeks. After I knew she would be gone, I went back and handed Helen the coat, scarf, and gloves. Here. Therefore, Amanda, she can use them or do whatever she wants with them. I don't care. Helen and Sam stared at me in shock. Then Helen grinned and slapped me. Why did you do that? I asked, rubbing my cheek. That's for making us deal with her for 3 weeks. We wondered what happened to you. Then Amanda came in crying and didn't stop for 3 days before she told me what happened. She's had a rough life, abused and left alone at 15, foster homes until she was 18, then she was on the streets. She met a bad guy who treated her poorly. Be nice to her suit. She can't handle kindness. She thinks if someone is nice to her, they want something in return. Helen grinned again. She checks the door every time a bike comes by, hoping it's you. She won't admit it, but she likes she's gone from angry to sad. Show up when she's here, talk to her before she drives everyone crazy. I went to the bar the next night wearing a suit. Amanda, come out here. She peeked out of the kitchen looking scared. I softened my tone. Come on, Amanda, I just want to talk. She came out slowly, ready to run. I had already talked to Sam and Helen, so they knew what I was doing. Sam, tell her she's off tonight. Her face went pale and Helen laughed. Just for tonight, Amanda, you still have your job. That's right, you still have your job. Just not tonight. Tonight we're going out. First, I'll take you to a place with real food. Hey, said Sam and Helen, smiling. Let me say it better. A place where burgers and fries aren't the whole meal. Then we'll see a movie, one of those sad ones you like. Get ready while I have a beer. People laughed and she blushed. She rubbed her jeans. Jace, I'm not dressed for 10 minutes, Amanda, or we'll repeat what happened that rainy night. Clear? She yelped and ran to the back room. I looked at Helen. Help her look nice and calm her down. Helen kissed me on the cheek. Maybe to you. Everyone cheered when she came out. Helen had helped her with makeup and her hair. She looked great. I took her arm and opened the door for her. The gang grinned and watched as I opened the car door for her and buckled her in. I heard faint cheers as we drove off. Is there a place you want to eat? I asked as we drove. Anywhere is fine, she said, looking out the window. I pulled into a parking lot. Look at me, Amanda. She turned her head. When I asked something, I want a clear answer. Now, where would you like to eat? Want to try something new? Italian? Thai? Anything? She looked down and said softly, I've always wanted to try lobster, but you don't have to spend that much. I took her to Red Lobster and got her a plate with 3 kinds of lobster. She was shy at first, but got more confident as she ate. She even tried to share her food with me. Sorry, Amanda, I don't like lobster. Then why did we come here? She asked, confused. Because you wanted to try lobster? Besides, I enjoyed the shrimp. She smiled and tried some when I offered. After dinner, we went to see a movie. There were 8 to choose from, and I let her pick. I didn't know she liked horror, but the gorier, the better for her. After the movie, we got a big banana split with 2 spoons at an ice cream parlor. For someone so small, she sure ate a lot. Everything was perfect until we passed a bank with a flashing sign showing the time and temperature. Oh no. Oh no, what? I asked. I've stayed out too late to sleep in the homeless shelter. You'll have to take me back to the bar. All right, I said, driving her to my house instead. She sat still as I turned off the car and the garage door closed. Amanda, listen, I have 2 bedrooms. One is yours for the night and has a lock. You can sleep in a comfy bed, take a nice shower, and even get breakfast. No strings attached, I promise. I'm going inside now. If you don't trust me, lock the doors and sleep in the car. I'll wake you in the morning. It was 30 minutes before she came inside. Where's the bedroom? I showed her, got her towels, gave her a shirt to sleep in, and went to bed, chuckling as I locked my own door. She sleeps like a rock because I showered, dressed, and made breakfast before I knocked on her door. Time to get up, sleepyhead. Breakfast is ready. I poured coffee, put the ham and cheese omelet on a plate, and toast on the table. I was about to give up when she walked into the kitchen still wearing my t-shirt. It hung to her knees, making her look really young. Even though she was slow to wake, she ate everything on her plate. We did the dishes, and I grabbed my travel mug. Where do you want me to drop you? She seemed surprised. I don't know. I usually go to the library until my shift starts, but it won't open for 2 hours. I guess you can drop me at the park. I didn't like that idea. Too many shady characters there. How about you stay here? I'll take the truck to work and meet you after. You can take the car to the bar, just don't scratch it or you'll be in trouble, got it? Her eyes widened. You trust me that much? I smiled. You're not going to steal from me, are you? She blushed bright red. I cut her off before she spoke. I didn't think so. I need the oil changed. Think you could drive it to the dealership for me? It's already paid for. I'll call them when they open. Will you do it if they have time? She nodded. I kissed her cheek and backed up before she could react. Thanks. I'll call you soon. Watch TV. Eat what you like. See you later. She rubbed her cheek as I walked out. Everyone at work noticed my good mood. A secretary asked if I'd had a good night. She said it kind of snippy since I'd turned her down when she made a pass at me after I started working there. She was in her mid-30s, a bit older than me. I finished pouring my coffee and turned to her. Actually, I spent the night with a young redhead almost 10 years younger than me. Remember the energy you had at that age? I'm lucky I can walk. I left her speechless as everyone else laughed. She did get the oil changed for me. I was amazed at how clean the house was when I returned. It sparkled. She must have been cleaning all day. I called my friend Fat Boy and he picked me up so I could get my car. He had a huge smile. What? You and Baby Doll, huh? Is she as nice as she looks? I grinned at him. You're a dirty old man, you know that? All she got was a bed alone. If you say so, he said, still grinning. I wasn't ready for what happened when we got there. She ran to me and jumped up, making me catch her, and gave me a big kiss. I felt a jolt, almost checking my shoes for holes. The bar roared. Shut up! She yelled. This is how a woman greets her man? I was surprised by her feelings. She stuck close to me so much that Sam told her to get to work or she'd be fired. When I was leaving, she asked if I could wait and drive her to the shelter. I couldn't say no. I warmed the car and waited. She came out with a big backpack that I had to put in the trunk. What's in here? Everything I own, she said, getting into the passenger seat. There's no safe place for it at the shelter. It would get stolen in a blink. I thought about how sad that was as I drove. When I missed the turn to the shelter, she spoke up. If I don't get there soon, I won't have a place to sleep. You're not sleeping there tonight. You've got a room at my place. You earned it for cleaning the house and running errands for me. Consider it a thank you. She started to argue, but changed her mind and turned the radio to a station I hated, cranking the volume. Tonight, instead of going to bed right away, she took a shower, put on one of my teas, and flopped on the couch. She grabbed the remote and started changing channels. Hey, I was watching that. It's boring, she said. Besides, I'm your guest. She picked a show about 4 girls with a secret. I lasted 5 minutes. If you're watching that, I'm going to bed before my brain melts. Good night, Amanda. I could still hear the TV loud when I fell asleep. The next morning, she woke me up by banging on my door. Breakfast, sleepyhead, she said, copying me from the day before. Eat it while it's hot. Sausage, home fries, and grits. I was still getting used to them since I wasn't from the South, but I'll admit they were growing on me. You don't keep much food around, do you? She asked while I ate. I'm a single guy. Not home much, no reason to, I said around a bite of sausage. She stacked the dishes when I finished. Do you need a ride tonight? I asked as I walked out the door. I'm off tonight, she said. But don't worry about me. I have things to do. Will I see you tonight? She grinned. Maybe. Have a good day now. I thought about her often on all day. She was getting under my skin. I had dated a bit since Becky. Nothing serious. It was enough to keep me from feeling too lonely. I wondered how much my feelings for Amanda were from pity and how much was real attraction. I weighed the reasons for and against trying to start something with her. She was much younger than me. She had a rough past, was loud, used a lot of cursing, and sometimes acted before thinking. We had nothing in common. But when she let her guard down, she was sweet and loving. She was smart, strong, and dealt with tough times with dignity. I realized she'd be a great mom, fierce and protective. The thought of her pregnant made me smile. She didn't know it, but she was beautiful. She would be even more so if she dressed better or knew how to use makeup. And her beauty went deeper than her looks. I wondered where she had gone as I drove home. The thought of her in the shelter made me feel really sad. She deserved better. The smell hit me when I walked in the door. I don't know what it was, but it made my mouth water. She must have heard the door because she came out of the kitchen, hair in a ponytail, wearing an apron. I stood amazed when she went up on her toes to kiss my cheek. "Hi, honey, how was work?" she said, then burst out laughing at the look on my face. She got serious. "I made you dinner, nothing fancy. I'm a good cook, but I haven't had much chance to practice lately. It'll be ready in 30 minutes. Sit down. I'll get you a beer, or would you rather have tea? After we eat, I need to talk to you." I knew it had to be serious by the look on her face. "Tea would be fine. Anything I can do to help?" She let out a sigh of relief. "I got it. Sit." Dinner was great. Roast pork, basil and rosemary roasted potatoes, asparagus, and homemade bread, probably the best meal I'd ever eaten. I stuffed myself and got a little embarrassed. She smiled. "I'll take the mass consumption as a compliment. Ready for dessert?" She had made banana pudding. I was almost in a food coma when I pushed back from the table. She sent me into the living room while she cleaned up. When she was done, she pulled a chair directly in front of the couch. "Did you like supper? Is the house clean enough for you?" "Baby doll, I've never seen the house cleaner, and dinner was excellent. Where did you learn to cook like that?" She looked sad for a minute. Mama wasn't much, but she was a great cook. She taught me a lot before the alcohol got her. I wanted to hug her badly right then. She pushed away her memories and looked me in the eye. "I want to make a deal with you, John Charles. I'd like to rent a room from you. I can give you $50 a week, plus I'll cook and clean the house, do the laundry, and even mow the yard. I won't get in your way, please. These last couple of nights have made me happier than I've been in a long time. I just can't face going back to the shelter. Please?" She looked at me full of hope. "No." Her face fell and tears started. "I'll get my things. Will you drive me to the shelter?" "No, you're not going anywhere until I talk. So sit, listen, and don't interrupt. Promise me." Her face was a mix of fear and hope. She nodded. "I'm happy to let you live with me under these conditions. 1, you will not pay me anything. Your rent will be keeping the house clean, doing the food shopping, and making meals. 2, I enjoy yard work, so I'll do that. 3, you keep your job at the bar. You can drive the Dart for work and household needs. 4, and this is the big one. You have to go back to school, get your adult high school diploma, or at the least a GED. She sat with her mouth open. I knew she felt bad about not finishing school. Maybe this would push her to do something about it. She finally nodded. "I'll do it, but on the school thing, will you help me? I'll need it." I relaxed, smiling. "I'll do everything short of actually doing it for you. Do we have a deal?" She jumped into my lap, kissing me until she realized what she was doing and jumped back off. "Sorry," she said, turning red. I grinned. "I've got one more condition. You have to give me a goodnight kiss every night and one before I go to work every morning. No deal otherwise." She glowed again, then grinned, holding out her hand. "Deal." We shook and started a wonderful and curious stage of our lives. I asked her the next morning where the food had come from. She gave me the receipts. I paid her back, then gave her my debit card, telling her to shop for food and anything else she thought we might need. I grinned all the way to work, my cheeks still tingling from the goodbye kiss. No one could wipe the smile off my face that day. Gail got catty again. Apparently, happiness made her angry. "See your young girlfriend last night?" "Yes, and this morning she moved in last night. You should find someone, Gail. It would make you a much nicer person." Her look could have turned milk sour. The guys at the bar teased me, but they smiled while doing it. Sam shook my hand and Helen kissed my cheek. "You're a good man, Suit. I knew she'd get you sooner or later. We're just roommates, Helen. Nothing is going on." She just smiled wider. "If you say so." Amanda grinned so hard her cheeks looked like they might cramp. I was about to order a burger when she stopped me. "Your dinner is in the fridge. Microwave for 3 minutes. I hope you like it." I had 1 beer, played a game of pool with Fat Boy, and went home to a nice meal. She got off work at 9:30 when the kitchen closed and was home by 10. She went straight to shower. I smelled like old fries. She said when she came out in a robe with a towel on her head, "What's on TV?" We settled into a simple routine. I did the yard work and washed the cars while she cleaned the house. She made most of the meals, but I insisted on taking her out or grilling for her once a week. On Sundays, if the weather was nice, we'd go for a ride, alone or with friends. She got a new nickname, Mrs. Suit, which she pretended to dislike but smiled about. Her 21st birthday came and I threw her a surprise party at the bar. She even got presents. Soon she was crying, something she rarely did. She surprised everyone by hugging them in thanks. I gave her a day at a spa with hair and makeup done and a gift card to a fancy store. "I'd like to see you in something other than jeans," I joked, and she blushed. Helen scolded me, saying it was time to make things official with Amanda. "I don't know how she feels about me, I admit it." "Then you're the biggest fool in the state. She loves you but doesn't know how to show it. You need to teach her. It'll be worth it. How do you know so much?" She hugged Sam when he walked up because 15 years ago I was her. Then I met Sam. It took time, but he showed me there are good men in the world. I just hadn't found one until I met him. I was with a bike gang for 3 years. They did terrible things to me, and I let them because I thought it was what I deserved. They messed me up so bad I couldn't have kids. He loved me anyway. How could I fight that? The age difference between Sam and me is bigger than yours and Amanda's, and we made it work. Take it to the next level, suit. You'll never regret it. Amanda is nothing like your ex. I had told them a little about Becky and me 6 months ago when we had dinner, and Amanda went to the store. She was doing really well in school. With my encouragement, she decided to go for a full high school diploma instead of the GED. We guessed it would take another 2 months for her to graduate. They had full graduation ceremonies twice a year to celebrate this achievement. Some graduates were in their 60s, but most were like Amanda, kids who got lost in the system. I promised her a party when it happened. I almost had a heart attack when she used my birthday present. She wore a beautiful white sundress, earrings, and a necklace. She even had 3-inch platform sandals. Her hair was styled beautifully, flowing down her back. She was so stunning it hurt. "What do you think?" she asked, spinning around. "Did you get your money's worth?" I said the first thing that came to mind. "They just polished a diamond, baby. You've always been this beautiful. The man who gets you will be the luckiest person on the planet." She stopped mid-twirl. Her eyes filled with tears, and she ran to her room. "What had I done now?" The next week she came home from school giggling. "What's up?" I asked. Happy she was in a good mood. I got asked out by a really cute guy. We've been talking off and on for a month. It felt like someone stabbed me in the heart. "Oh," was all I said, turning away. She confronted me quickly. "That's all you have to say?" Oh, I got defensive. "What do you want me to say? You're clearly interested. You've been flirting for a month. Why should I stop you?" She went into her room, slamming the door. I sighed. She'd been doing that a lot lately. I'd have to fix the door if she kept this up. I knocked, but she wouldn't answer. Giving up, I got a beer and felt miserable. By my 3rd beer, I was trying to understand women and dozed off. I woke when she shook my shoulder gently. "What?" I asked, trying to wake up. She said the 4 words no one likes hearing. "We need to talk." I woke up instantly. Nothing good ever came after those words in my experience. "Do you like me?" I couldn't read her eyes. "Yes, I do," I answered truthfully. "How much?" "I don't know what you want, Amanda. Help me understand." She slapped me hard. As I rubbed my jaw, she started ranting. "I guess what I'm asking is if you love me? Not like a friend, but real love. Because I've loved you for a long time and you've never noticed. I know I'm younger than you. I'm uneducated. I don't have social skills. I'm loud, jealous, scared. And that's just the start. I can't take it anymore. It hurts. So if you don't love me, I'm moving out." I stopped her rant with a kiss. "Hush now," I said firmly. "Are you trying to talk me out of loving you? Because if you are, it's too late. And all the things you say you don't have don't matter. You have something much more important. You have my heart." She almost fainted. When she heard what I said, when she woke up, she was in my arms, crying until she finally fell asleep. Did we go to her bed and make love? No. She was still hurting and fragile. I held her until the tears stopped. Then I took her to my bed, tucked her in, and went outside to look at the stars, wondering what would happen next. I stayed out there for over an hour. When I came back, she had put on a shirt and got back into bed. When I lay down, she cuddled into my arms, mumbled something like "love you," and fell asleep again. I held her, feeling happy she was close, and then I eventually drifted off too. I woke up alone with the smell of breakfast in the air. She was busy in the kitchen getting everything ready. I surprised her by picking her up and giving her a kiss on the neck. She froze for a moment, then relaxed and giggled. "Let me go or you'll have burnt waffles for breakfast." She said after breakfast, before clearing the table, we talked. It was Saturday and we had nothing to do. She snuggled into my lap. "Jace, you know I love you. Please go slow with me. I have a lot of past issues." She told me her story with tears and hugs in between. She was happy until she was 10. Her dad died, and her mom was weak and got lost in sadness and bad choices, ending up drinking too much. There were stepfathers and boyfriends. When she was 15, one tried to attack her. She fought back and told the school. They took her away from her mom, and she spent 3 years in foster care and juvenile hall. She stole a car, desperate to see her little sister, who was 9 years younger. It was the first time I knew she had a sister. When she turned 18, she was on her own. She ended up with a bad guy out of desperation. He took her virginity, and every time they were close, it was almost like he was forcing her. Then he wanted her to work for money, so she ran away and ended up here. My heart hurt for her. I want to be with you, Jace, but I get scared. Help me. So I did. I even found her a therapist. 4 months later, it happened. We had been getting closer, touching, talking. She felt safe enough to be around in small clothes and wore pretty gowns to our bed, which she hadn't left since I brought her there. Amanda didn't like alcohol, but enjoyed some wine from our client. After half a bottle one night, she opened up. I still took it slow. I kissed her from top to bottom, taking my time. When I reached her middle, she was so excited that she reacted strongly. "That was amazing," she said, holding my head. She reacted again 5 minutes later and then pulled me up, crying. She moved on top of me. "Like this, please. I need to be in control." She was so tight it took a few minutes to fit inside her. 10 minutes later, she was moving fast, and I followed her lead. It was wild and intense. She collapsed on my chest, exhausted. The next morning, she woke me up, touching me gently. "Can we do it again?" "I'll let you lead this time." She had her first big moment while I was on top, crying out happily. It was even more intense when we tried a different way. She was so small I almost couldn't see her under my hands. We finished and went back to sleep. She woke me up the same way again. I could get used to this. "Can you do what we did earlier?" "Then let me switch," she asked. She reacted again before moving on top of me. 5 minutes later, she was going fast again, and I followed. We didn't ride that day. The thought of sitting on a bike was too much for her. We stayed in bed until afternoon. Then I made her get dressed. She drove the car, calling it hers proudly. We went to the mall, and I took her to a jewelry store. "Pick one," I said, standing in front of the engagement rings. "Really?" she asked, already tearing up. "Really," I said, kneeling down. "Marry me." After sobbing out a yes and calming down, she tried on many rings and chose a simple one, not the most expensive, but the one she wanted. When we entered the bar, everyone started celebrating. The women gathered quickly, leaving the men standing. "What are they doing?" I asked. The men laughed. "Planning a wedding, you dummy. The best advice we can give you is to agree to whatever she wants if you can afford it and stay out of their way. She wanted a church wedding. We found a church nearby, but we had to attend services for at least 6 weeks before the wedding. It turned out great. The Reverend was wise and asked for a few counseling sessions first. The troubles of my first marriage came out along with her past. She cried for me, looked me in the eye, and said she would never do that to me. I believed her. We became members of the church, not attending every week, but often. I joked she used it as an excuse to buy more dresses. She rarely wore anything else except for work. She wanted to keep her job to have her own money. "The first time you say I don't look good in dresses, I'll stop wearing them," she said, smiling. Now she has so many clothes that she rotates them, putting the ones she doesn't need for the season in the other bedroom. I can still close my eyes and see Amanda walking down the aisle. Her ivory lace and silk dress fit her just right, showing off her shape. Her thick hair fell down her back, shining in the light. Helen took the place of Amanda's mother. Sam walked her down the aisle. Fat Boy was my best man. Everyone from my job was there except Gail, and nearly everyone from the bar came too. They led our limo to the airport on their bikes. Mom was there. She really liked Amanda because she always wanted a daughter. Amanda warmed up more slowly, but before we left, she leaned in and said something that made my mom cry happy tears. I asked Amanda about it on the way to the airport. I said, "Thank you, Mom, for sharing your son. I'll repay you with your grandchildren." It seemed to make her happy. Then she changed the subject by showing me some hints of her wedding clothes. We honeymooned in Belize because I had been to Cancun on my first honeymoon, and I did not want to have the same memories. I found out it was the first trip out of the country for Amanda. It was actually her first real trip anywhere. We had so much fun. We enjoyed the beaches, and Amanda stayed under the umbrella a lot because her fair skin didn't like the hot sun. I loved watching her red hair shine as she walked. She surprised me by taking me to a beach where people didn't have to wear tops. Amanda took off her cover, wearing only a tiny bottom piece. "Keep your mouth shut, honey. I wanted to give you something to remember. Me walking around almost naked while men drool over me should do it. Knowing that no one but you will ever touch me should make it even better." I'll admit it. I had to jump into the water every 5 minutes trying to calm down. The water was so warm it didn't help. Her body was small but nicely shaped, making her curves look bigger than they were. Her backside made men stop talking as she walked by. I saw one wife poke her husband because of it. That night we made love passionately, almost exhausting each other. 6 wonderful months went by. I made Amanda quit the bar so she'd be home with me. She complained but did it. She had a secret smile I knew well. She was up to something. To fill her time, she went back to school studying for a degree in hospitality and food management. I supported her fully but didn't really understand her choice. One day she called me at work sounding scared. "Honey, I need you to come home. Now it's important." I left right away. She was pacing back and forth, clearly upset. She rushed into my arms. I was starting to feel worried. I knew it was bad when she started with, "Honey, do you love me? Do I even have to answer that?" She relaxed and took my hand. "I've got something to tell you and something to ask you. Please listen to me before you say anything." She had been looking for her sister for a few weeks, wanting to connect. Her sister was 12 now, and Amanda hadn't seen her since she was 4. It bothered her thinking about how good her life was now and remembering her experiences in foster care. First, I found my sister. She doesn't even remember me. That was pretty hard. She looks a lot like Dad. That's great, honey. She'll warm up after she gets to know you. Is she in a good home? Adopted? Details, honey. I'd love to meet my little sister-in-law. I was excited knowing how much she wanted this. A tear ran down her cheek. "No," she said sadly. "She wasn't adopted. And she was in a bad place when I found her. A place so bad they had to take her and the other kids out. Where is she now? You haven't lost her again, have you?" She hugged me. "No, she's really close." She took my hand, holding it tightly. "She's in the spare bedroom. Wow." After I collected my thoughts, I had Amanda bring her out. She was only 12, but already taller than Amanda. Her hair was black, her nose a little broader, but apart from that, they looked like twins. Same mouth, same elegant neck, same expressive hands. Amanda introduced us. I went to hug her and she backed away, so I held out my hand. "It's nice to finally meet you, Celeste. Amanda talks about you often. Then where the heck has she been while I was living in that awful place? Why hasn't she come looking for me before now? I could have been here years ago." The sheer anger in her voice shook me. Amanda stepped in. "I'm here now, honey. I came for you as soon as I could. 4 years ago, I couldn't take care of myself. No way I could take care of an 8-year-old. I had to grow up first. I'm sorry if you're angry. Let's see if we can make it up to you." Celeste was on a roll. "Oh, that's just great. Now I get to live the perfect life, wear fancy dresses and giggle over boys. Guess what? I know all about boys. Why do you think they closed the home down? Guys want one thing and it's right here." She grabbed her crotch. "Just as soon as you're out the door, your husband here will try to make me do things. Let's get it over with. Give me some money and let me go, and I'm all yours for the night. Deal?" Amanda was shocked into silence. I was furious. "Maybe we'll just give you a warm bed for the night and send you on your way tomorrow. If what you had is better than what we're offering, go back to it, come to think about it. I haven't offered you a thing. I tell you this. If we talk it over and decide we want you with us, you'll keep a polite tongue in your head and not give us any trouble. The most important thing in my life is my wife, and I will not have her hurt or suffer because you had a hard life. Hers hasn't been easy either. Listen to her story sometime. See if you have any empathy. Are we clear here?" She paled and backed away from me, but just as soon as I stopped, she got brave again. "Screw you. I don't need a father figure. I don't need a sister or a mother. I don't need anything from either of you. Got it." I turned to Amanda and hugged her. She started crying. I stroked her hair. "I'm sorry, honey. I know how much you wanted this. It looks like it might be too late. It's not your fault. You hear me? It's not your fault. Maybe she'll grow up and realize that one day." I stepped back and looked at both of them. "I'm going to start the grill. You two talk. See if you can work things out." Celeste, you're staying here tonight. Be nice and stop swearing. They talked while I set the grill up and cooked. I left the curtains open just in case. I could hear the yelling, see Amanda crying. It made me so sad. Then Amanda said something that made Celeste cry and they started hugging. Maybe there was hope. Dinner was pretty quiet. No outbursts. Celeste ate 2 steaks and 2 big baked potatoes. She even helped Amanda wash the dishes. They came into the living room to tell me they were going out for about an hour. They probably needed to get clothes for Celeste. I sat and thought while they were gone, wondering about a society that treated children like unwanted items. They came back and Celeste was actually giggling. She even said goodnight to us, showing off her new pajamas with feet. In bed, we talked after she went to sleep. Can we keep her at least for a while? I'll take care of her. You won't even notice her. I laughed a little. I doubt that. All right, she can stay for now, but she has to behave. Thank you, honey. I knew I could count on you. The state was happy to give Amanda custody. She had a good marriage, lived in a nice neighborhood, and had good references. Plus, they wouldn't have to pay anything. I surprised them by asking about her Social Security money. No one had filed for it. I got a lawyer, and he did the paperwork. When it was settled, they had to give all the money she was due for the last 8 years to us as her guardians. She also got $700 a month until she was 18. We put it into a college fund. She could use it at 18 if she went to school. If not, she would get it all when she turned 21. It would almost be enough for 4 years of college if she was careful with it. Celeste wasn't as grateful as we hoped. She complained she should get it sooner to buy a car. That's almost 4 years away. Let's see what happens until then. I ended up being the bad guy to make it easier on Amanda. Celeste resented it a lot, but knew better than to try to turn us against each other. The first time she tried, she got grounded for a month. She was behind in school. She refused help from me at first, but Amanda convinced her by giving her rewards for good grades, so she started listening. During this time, I was doing really well at work. The campaign for the winemaker was a big success and led to bigger things. My boss worried I would leave, so he made a deal with me. I could buy into the company, and he'd match every percent I bought up to 7. I could afford about 1% a year, so in 7 years I'd have 14% of the company. Amanda and I talked it over and decided to do it. We liked it here. Celeste ran away twice. The first time she was gone for 4 days before they found her at a bus station in another state. Amanda cried the whole time she was gone. She came back, defiant and angry. I waited until I could talk to her alone and laid it out. You know you'd be a good kid if you let yourself. You're smart. You could figure out the kind of life you'd have on the streets, a hard, short life, likely dead before 30. Is that what you want? It's simple. If you run again, you won't come back. In 3 years, you'll be 16. I'll pay your court costs for emancipation, give you your Social Security money, and wish you well. But Amanda can't cry over you anymore. Do you understand? I think I scared her. 6 months later, she didn't come home from school. When she showed up, she found the doors locked. Thank goodness Amanda wasn't there. I opened the door and spoke through the screen. I've already boxed your stuff. You can come in and wait for DSS. I've called them. They should be here in about 45 minutes. I let her in. She huddled on the couch, rocking back and forth. Soon she was crying, then begging. Please, please don't send me away. I'll be good. I promise. I didn't mean to leave. I panicked when I got caught smoking at school. They suspended me for 3 days. It'll kill Amanda. I didn't know what to do. I was surprised. She hated smokers. Were you smoking? No, but I was with them cutting class. Please don't send me away. Celeste, look at me. She raised her head. You have to learn. You have a support system. Amanda loves you. I love you. We're a family. We're here to give you guidance and a good home and love. Let us do our job, okay? You should have come to us and told us what you did. We would have punished you, been disappointed, but we wouldn't have stopped loving you. She started crying harder when I told her I loved her, and she flew into my arms, sobbing. Amanda walked in. What's going on? She asked nervously. Our child is growing up, honey. She did something bad, got caught, came home and told me all about it. I think she understands what she did and is sorry. I'll let her tell you about it. Here. I handed her off and went outside. The DSS worker was at the mailbox. Hi, Denise. Sorry, it was a false alarm. She got into trouble at school and got suspended for 3 days. Nothing too serious, but she was scared to face us. Amanda is with her now, trying to understand what happened. They're inside if you want to check. She sighed. I should, but I think I can trust you. Now I can get home and cook dinner for Fred and have a family meal for once. Thanks, Denise, I said, feeling a bit guilty for taking her time. How about you guys come over on Sunday? I'm thinking of roasting some Boston butts. That sounds good, Jace, but it's homecoming at our church. There's going to be a big meal. Why don't you join us instead? It might help me win a little informal competition on who can bring the most guests. I told her I'd ask the girls and went back inside. Who was that? It was Denise. She invited us to homecoming. Do you guys want to go? I wouldn't mind it. They got that new young reverend. He seems nice. I'll call her and ask what I can bring. Celeste watched me smiling. I tried to look serious, but couldn't. She got up from the couch. I know I'm grounded for a month, but I can still go to church, right? Bobby Smith goes there too, Celeste. You're 13. You can think about boys later. Much later. You two will bring the house down. They both smiled, and Celeste said, men then went to help her sister with dinner. That was the moment I knew my family would be okay. This had been quite a week for our family. Celeste made the honor roll for the first time and would start learning to drive over the summer. The thought of her driving scared me a bit. Amanda graduated tonight, holding her diploma with pride. She made a speech that moved everyone to tears. She talked about her childhood, her sister, and how she had come so far because someone believed in her and wouldn't let her give up. She thanked me for being the best husband and thanked Celeste for being a perfect daughter. Have faith, have hope, believe in yourself. You may not get as lucky as I did, but you'll be better for trying. We had a cookout for her the next day. Our little house was packed. Mom came down to celebrate. Our bar friends, my work friends, including my boss, Denise from DSS, and even Jack Edwards and his wife came. I thought they were still in Italy. After everyone left, they stayed to take Celeste for the weekend. They had married late and never had kids. June loved Amanda like her own daughter. When Celeste came along, she was overjoyed. She kept Celeste for a weekend each month, so Amanda and I could have some time alone. She always brought Celeste back with a new outfit. Mom joined in too, so Celeste was hardly home during the summer. I complained, but the ladies quickly hushed me. Your girls have had a tough life, Jace. The best thing that happened to them was you. I always wanted a daughter and a grandchild. Thank you for these. So don't fuss because we spoil her. Here's an idea. Give us a couple more grandchildren. It will make sharing easier, Mom said with a little smile after her speech. We heard a sob and saw Celeste. The women quickly comforted her. When they calmed down, I started to ask, but Amanda stopped me. June jumped in. Listen to your mom, Jace. You too, Amanda, we're not getting any younger. Give them to us soon while we still have the energy to chase them around. I looked at Jack and he just grinned. I think it's a great idea. Celeste hugged me for a long time before she left. We didn't go to the bar as often as before. Kids change your plans. I still went after work sometimes. Celeste often needed rides, so Amanda became the supermom, taking her to band practice, soccer games, and such. I tried to make it to all her games even though I was busy. One sunny Saturday after a soccer game, I listened to Celeste and her teammates chat about where to celebrate their win. She was going out with groups now, which made me a bit uneasy since they would pair up. Amanda saw my worry. You can't stop her from growing up. This is good practice for when she starts dating one-on-one. Most of these outings have chaperones, except when they go to the movies or the mall. Trust her, she would never let you down. It was right after Amanda graduated and we were at a church event. The kids wanted to go for ice cream later. I walked up. Ask your dad if it's okay. Celeste looked at me and batted her eyes. Daddy, can I go with Mrs. Jenkins and my friends for ice cream? It hit me hard and my eyes teared up. Sure, baby, here's a 20. She giggled, took the money, and ran off, shouting behind her. Bye, Mom. Bye, Dad. I'll be home by 7. Amanda had to drive us home. After that, we were Mom and Dad. It's just easier than explaining every time someone talks about it. Amanda smiled and said, You treat me like your kid and I like it. I liked it too. Our friend Sam had a minor stroke. It wasn't too bad, but he had to slow down with work. All our friends helped out, but Helen couldn't keep up. One Sunday after church, Amanda came to me. We were planning to go for a ride since Celeste was with her friends. Before we go, I need to ask you something. Please let me finish before you say anything. It's important to me. I hoped it wasn't something bad. I love being Celeste's mom and your wife, but Helen needs help, and I want to use my degree. I've talked with Helen and Sam, and they agree. I want to go back to the bar, not as a worker, but as a partner. Helen will run the bar and Sam will help. I'll run the kitchen. Will you think about it? I thought about it while we rode. We stopped at the bar and I looked at it differently. It was nice, but needed a little care. Helen came over and Amanda went into the kitchen. What do you think? Helen asked. It's a lot to consider. I don't want to lose my wife to a business. You know my past, and I don't like different schedules. Plus, we have to think about Celeste, and I'll need to know how much money we're talking. In the end, I'll probably agree because she knows I can't say no to her. Helen patted my hand. You won't lose her. She's already planned it, so she won't be away from you much once things are set up and everyone is trained. She has big plans. She's got us all excited. We talked it over. I'd handed over our finances to her long ago because she was good with money. I had a general idea, but she usually paid the bills. All our vehicles were paid for, including the minivan we got for Celeste and her friends. We had bought our house when our lease ended. It was small, but fit our needs. We had made a good down payment, so our mortgage was low. By now, I owned 4% of my company and made good money. Our savings were good, so I didn't worry about the money. In the end, we owned 30% of the bar. We spent some money fixing it up, upgraded the kitchen, and had a grand reopening. Business increased right away. The old customers loved the new look, and new ones liked the atmosphere. The bar opened at 11 now, serving lunch. Amanda worked magic in the kitchen. They still had burgers and fries, but added new toppings like avocado, hot peppers, spinach leaves, and different flavors of cheese. Same with the hot dogs. A favorite had grilled onions and mushrooms, hot mustard, and dill relish. Fries were no longer offered. Instead, there were home fries, thinly sliced and soaked overnight in various flavors. She also added homemade soups like potato with cheese and bacon bits, tomato with cream, and a pork stew with many herbs, which was the most popular. One of her upgrades was a big gas grill offering grilled veggies in season. Amanda bought from local farmers as much as she could and had a large chalkboard showing which farm provided the day's vegetables or meats. The farmers loved it. The regulars were unsure at first, but soon you could hear discussions about which farm had the best produce and which herbs went best with which dishes. It was funny to see big bikers almost argue over which soup was better, pumpkin or butternut squash. She also added a wine list, all from local sources, with Jackson's wine featured. It was funny. We couldn't serve wine in a place with pool tables, so they had to go. Helen and Sam didn't mind, since fights often started there, and they could add 8 more tables in that space. Helen led the way and made a deal with a local brewer to feature their beers on draft. A food critic, hearing good things, visited us. We didn't know until the review came out. The best hidden jewel in the state was the headline, followed by an excellent review. Sam's Bar and Grill, located on Swan Pond Road just outside the city limits, has been around for 75 years. A local favorite, the addition of part owner Amanda Gooding and her kitchen improvements, have pushed it into the spotlight. The regulars might have preferred it stayed local, but there's no going back now. You'll find all kinds of people here, from workers to college kids, all mixing well. The only time I heard raised voices was when 2 customers disagreed about which herb should be in the pork stew, rosemary or basil. I sided with the biker because he was bigger, and I like rosemary. The bar offers simple, well-seasoned food at a good price. The service is great, the atmosphere is relaxed, and it's very clean. The sanitation rating is 102, just 1 point short of perfect. I complimented Mrs. Gooding, and she promised to get a perfect score in 6 months, even if she had to push her staff hard. Being outside the city limits, they only serve beer and wine, not liquor. Helen Connors, the manager and main owner with her husband Sam, says they don't plan to get a liquor license even if the rules change to allow it. It's just simpler without liquor, she said. The bar looks like an old-time saloon. It has local beers and wines and also popular national brands. The staff knows their stuff and can easily explain the difference between types of beer and wine. It's a bit out of the way, but worth visiting. I've been there 3 times, had 3 different meals, and was happy with the quality and service each time. One more thing, you must try the banana pudding. It's my favorite and the best I've ever had. Helen and Amanda just looked at each other and smiled. I didn't know who he was, said Amanda. I thought he was just a curious customer who knew a bit about food. Celeste and I ate dinner there on nights Amanda worked. Amanda always took her break to eat with us. Celeste wanted to work there once she was old enough, and I was fine with that. Many families visited now, and most serious drinking was done at the bar. Thursday nights were for bikers, and the local Harley owners group came in large numbers along with other bikers. They wanted to hold their meetings there, but we didn't have a private room. Amanda, Sam, and Helen talked about it, hired an architect, and made the place almost 3 times bigger. Soon, even that space was full. I now owned 8% of our agency. Celeste turned 16, started working part-time after school, and learned cooking from her sister Mom. She wanted to go to culinary school after high school. She wanted the Dart car, but I wasn't giving a fast car to a 16-year-old. We got her a Mustang instead, a nice V6 that still went pretty fast. Amanda was almost 26, and I was ready to start our own little family. She agreed, but wanted to wait until Celeste graduated to focus on the baby. Celeste laughed when she heard us talking. "Mom, I'm not a baby. I can take care of myself. You should give Dad another kid while he's still young enough to help out." I thought she made a good point, but Amanda just laughed and said we'd talk about it later. Our business was growing too. My ad campaign for Jack brought in more business, especially from local alcohol companies. We now handled 2 more wineries and 3 breweries, and we were talking to a local distillery getting some national attention. I was at a regional conference when I saw an old friend. I hadn't seen Ada in almost 6 years. She still looked amazing, even more beautiful with time. I spotted her first and sneaked up behind her. "Still have a thing about color lines? I got tired of waiting for you, but a lot of guys here are interested in you." I hugged her while I talked. She was surprised at first, but then hugged back when she saw it was me. "Jace, it's so good to see you. How are you? Where have you been? You just disappeared. I've missed you. Sometimes I needed advice and a friend to talk to." We got a table and talked for an hour. She was divorced. Her husband had cheated and she caught him. He wasn't as strict about color lines as I was. He was with a skinny little blonde. I found them. He promised it was over. We went to counseling. I thought we had moved past it until she got pregnant. I never saw him again after that. He didn't even come to the final court hearing. I held her hand. "Sorry, Ada. Are you seeing anyone now?" "No, it's too soon, I guess. I'm thinking about a change. My agency was sold and I don't like the new owners. I think they keep me because I'm good at what I do. I need a change." I smiled and gave her a card. "Ever think about moving to the sunny South? Think about it and give me a call." To my surprise, she took the card. Before we left, she asked about my life. I showed her my wedding band. I thank God every day for my life now. I've got a great wife, a good daughter, a good job, and lots of nice friends. Here. I showed her pictures of Amanda and Celeste. She looked at them in wonder. "How did you end up with such a beautiful woman? And the daughter looks like her except for hair color, and she looks so young. Did she have a daughter at 6? I laughed and explained. She hugged me tightly, genuinely happy for me. I didn't think about it until later, but neither of us mentioned Becky. 2 months later, my boss called me into his office, tossing a resume at me. "Look this over. She listed you as a reference and said, 'You trained her. Is she any good?' I looked at it and grinned. I might have trained her, but she's a natural. She's better than me now. If we can afford her, we'd be crazy not to hire her." He nodded. "Hire her then. Have her report to you. Now I have something serious to discuss. I haven't told anyone yet, and it stays in this room. I'm sick, John Charles. It's serious. I have a brain tumor. They just found it, and it needs to be removed or it will kill me. There's a 50 chance I won't make it. I spoke with Gloria, and she agreed you should run the place until I get better. If I don't make it, we still need you to keep things going until Gloria can decide what she wants to do." Our small group of friends was really upset when he told us he and Jack had been close for years. On the day of the surgery, our whole office, even Gail, was there. Many of his other friends showed up too. He called each of us into his room to say goodbye just in case. Can, June, Amanda, Celeste, and I took turns holding Gloria. When we weren't with her, we were in the chapel with the others praying for him. The surgery took 5 hours. When the doctor finally came out, everyone held their breath. He's doing fine so far. I feel pretty good about his chances of recovery. He'll be strong enough for visitors tomorrow. We cheered, cried, and thanked the doctors, and God ate a fit right in and quickly became my right-hand woman. Amanda and Celeste loved her, and soon she was part of our friend group. Before long, the matchmaking began. Married women always tried to pair up single friends. Ada resisted, saying she wasn't ready yet. She spent a lot of time at the bar, and everyone soon knew she was our friend. which made her their friend too. I'll never forget when a friend invited her on a poker run. He was huge, bearded, and white, but the gentlest man I'd ever met. Put him around kids, and soon they were all around him like he was the Pied Piper. His wife had turned out to be cold and untrustworthy, cheating on him multiple times before he found out. It broke him, and she called him a weak man. Her new boyfriend disrespected him, which was a big mistake. Sam and I bailed him out, got him a lawyer, and dealt with it, but the damage was done. It had been 18 months, and he still hadn't thought about dating. Ada surprised us by accepting, as long as they went on a date first to get to know each other. The date must have gone well because they both smiled a lot at the poker run. 8 months later, she was wearing a nice ring and was 3 months pregnant. My life changed again when a woman named Alice Johnson contacted me. She wanted us to do a campaign for her. She even had it planned out. That made me pause because clients usually don't have good ideas and they insist on doing it their way. I usually steer them towards someone else because when the idea fails, they don't understand why. Alice was a personal manager for fighters. Her new sister-in-law was Bettina Bang Bang Burke, now Stewart, a middleweight MMA fighter and world champion. The campaign wasn't for Bettina, but for a charity they both supported. I hesitated but agreed to a meeting. Ada and I met Alice at the airport, had lunch, and she told us her idea. It was smart, so we tweaked it a bit, did some focus groups, and decided to go with it. Soon, ads were everywhere, mostly in print and billboards. It was like the Got Milk campaign, but instead of milk, it was about love. Got Love became the slogan for the National Adoption Coalition, a group of agencies that help kids find loving homes. The campaign grew nationally. The ads featured famous people who were adopted with children from various homes, usually in the celebrity's hometown. There was a plea to consider adopting one of the kids, and local dairies promised to donate a certain amount of milk to homes for every successful adoption. We even used the milk mustache. Soon, we had well-known people begging to help. Rock and country stars, athletes, business leaders, actors, Olympians, Nobel Prize winners, all adopted, all eager to be part of it. We featured many with their adoptive parents. Some had even adopted kids themselves. Betty and Mark Stewart, who helped start the idea, posed with their newly adopted son. It was an instant hit. This led to my company, High Country Advertising, winning a national award. Howard, my boss, was too weak to travel, so Ada and I went to accept it. Her new husband, Roy, and Amanda came along, too. It felt great to be there. We made our acceptance speech and apologized to Alice Johnson, who we insisted join us on stage for stealing her idea. Then we thanked her and everyone there for honoring us. There was a mixer after the awards. Ada and I had a bet going. Whoever got the most offers had to buy the other breakfast. I had 9, Ada had 16. I told her I wanted steak and eggs. We were about to leave, and I was looking for Amanda. She and Ada had gone to the ladies' room. That's when I ran into her. Becky. She looked a bit scared and unsure. "Hello, Jace. How are you?" I looked at her. She was still beautiful, a little heavier, but not by much. Her hair was shorter. Her lips seemed fuller, but she was still the woman I fell in love with. "I'm good, Beck. And you?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, I'm all right. Congratulations on your award. It was good to see Ada again. She says she works for you now. I cleared things up. I prefer to say she works with me. I'm a part owner and manager of High Country Advertising. Been there since. After everything, I like it. I like the area and the people." She looked at my finger. "Seems there is someone there you really like." I wasn't sure if it hurt her feelings, but I smiled, rubbing my ring. "Yes, there is. I see you found someone, too." She had a big ring on her finger, which she twisted nervously. "I have, and I'm happy." "But Jace, late at night when you're lying there next to her, do you ever think about me? If you'd forgiven me, we'd still be together." I sighed. "I used to think a lot about you, but then I met Amanda and you became just a memory. Sometimes something reminds me of the good times, but it doesn't last long." She suddenly grabbed my hand. "We could start over. I'd leave him if you took me back. I've never gotten over you. We were meant to be together." I heard a sharp breath behind me as I gently removed her hand. "No, we weren't back. If we were, you wouldn't have cheated and I wouldn't have found Amanda. There's more love and faithfulness in her little finger than in your whole body. I'm sorry, Becky. Please try to have a good life." I started to walk away when I felt a small hand slip into mine. "Who's your friend, honey?" asked Amanda with a calm smile. This is Becky, someone I knew from my old town. Becky, this is my wife, Amanda. They didn't shake hands, just looked at each other wearily. I looked at them together. Becky in her mid-30s wearing a simple black dress, and Amanda, 26, still glowing with youth, her green gown matching her eyes with copper-red hair flowing down her back. I realized again how lucky I was. Amanda stopped looking at Becky and turned to me, smiling. Honey, I know it's early, but could you take me back to the room? I'm feeling a bit morning sick this evening. She stopped, put her hand to her mouth, and giggled. Oops, I wanted to surprise you tonight. Too late now. Congratulations, honey. It's a boy. I think I heard a gasp behind me, but suddenly the only person in the world who mattered was in front of me. I gathered her in my arms, kissing and crying while she giggled. She finally had to tap my back to get me to let go. There was a big celebration at the bar. Amanda smiled and thanked everyone, but when we got home, she turned serious. I know who you were talking to in New York. If I ever see you with her again, we'll have a serious problem. Do you understand? I made a promise it would never happen again. She softened and hugged me. Thank you, honey. I also heard what you told her. It was sweet. Besides, we still have a baby on the way. Hey, audience! If you liked this video and want to keep up with more thrilling stories, make sure to subscribe to Prince Cheating Tales and hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss out on our upcoming adventures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next wonderful story.